Good evening, everyone. I am Chris, and I'm joined once again with Everything in Middle Earth to discuss episodes 2 and episode 3 of The Rings of Power Season 2. Amazon was so charitable in just releasing 3 episodes for us. Aren't they delightful, Amazon? Thank you so much for releasing 3 in one go. And unfortunately, schedules being what they are, we couldn't get to all 3 episodes in one day. And judging by how long we were streaming for on our episode 1 review of season 2, it's probably a blessing in disguise, because I don't think there's any way that I don't think we would have survived reviewing 3 episodes in one day. So we've paced it out a little bit. And today we're going to be talking about episode 2, which is Where the Stars Are Strange, and episode 3, The Eagle and the Scepter. We're both pretty fresh off these episodes. I believe you mentioned before we went live that you're not long finished episode 3. I'm kind of the same as well. This was like a bit of a rush job to get both of these in, but thankfully, after today, things will return to a bit of a sense of normality. And thank Christ we'll have 1 episode a week, which I think we can just about manage. So, thank you for jumping on again with me tonight, man. How are you doing? We're having a bit of technical difficulties, aren't we? But we're managing to work around it, I think.
Yeah, so I am good. I am already sick and tired of the Rings of Power, although I have to be positive because I'm being too negative at the moment. So, I have to appreciate all the good things that are in Rings of Power, which I can probably name with the amount of fingers on my hand, which is barely any. So, yeah, I'm knackered from the Rings of Power, but I'm very excited to hear your thoughts on a couple of the issues
there are many issues.
took place during these upcoming episodes. I'm glad that it's going back to a one. Yes, there is so many. And I'm glad that it's going back to a 1 episode a week.
Yeah, me too. I think it's cutting in and out again, so I'm going to try and just jump in when I think it's doing its thing. We've got a bit of technical issues at the moment, so hopefully they can be figured out. But yeah, so what I want to clarify before we jump in is I made a promise to the viewers in our last stream, and I promised to come up with 1 positive for every episode. Now, in today's stream, as I mentioned, we're reviewing 2 episodes. We're reviewing episode 2 and episode 3. Does that mean I only need to come up with 1 positive, or do I still need to come up for a positive for each of those episodes? Because I have 1 positive. And I believe it's from episode 3. But do I need to try and think on my feet and think of 1 for episode 2 as well? Or can I get away with just 1 today?
I think because you're not feeling very well, I think 1 for the both episodes, because I'll be honest, I can't name 3 positives, so or even
Same.
2. So
I'm gonna really
1 will
struggle.
do.
Okay, well, I have my 1 then, so that's all good. That's all I need to do. Right then, I guess we'll kick off with episode 2. That makes sense. Where the Stars Are Strange. Okay, and this is throughout the Rings of Power. This has been present in season 1, and I think pretty much every episode now. What I'm really sick and tired of are these sort of like vacuous, lofty metaphors and similes they keep throwing out there. And we had one in the very beginning episode of season 1 where it was like, Galadriel, do you know why a ship floats and a rock sinks? And it's the writers thinking they're being all, Tolkienian and being all whimsical and, metaphysical and whatnot. And there's a quote here, and I believe it's Disa who says it, because, we begin at Khazad-dum, and she says, "A mountain is like a person. Sing to it properly, it will reflect your song back to you." And I'm like, these lines are just absolute shit, and the writers keep doing it. I think in this episode alone, there's like 3 or 4 of those lofty fucking metaphors, and they're all terrible. Yeah, so we're off to a flying start here in Khazad-dum.
There is 1 quote that I did pull up in my review, and it was, "Let's kill 2 spiders with 1 boot." And what the heck is this? utter dross.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? It's really not great. And then we find Disa and Durin in the marketplace in Khazad-dum. Interesting that there we go. I'm going to throw my positive out right now because I don't think I'm going to have one throughout the rest of it. It's interesting to see marketplaces within Khazad-dum itself. When Khazad-dum, when it's up and running, there we go. I've given my positive. A bustling dwarven community, complete with farms and crops and little light coming through and a marketplace. There you go. Anyway, shit starts to kick off. Disa, for some reason, has some kind of sixth sense. And she senses that there's about to be like a rock fall. The place is about to break apart, and some huge rocks fall from the rafters, fall from the ceiling, crushing many dwarves and taking out some of the bridges. And we get another delightful Disa thigh shot while she's on the ground. Thanks, Amazon. Love it.
Yes, and hello.
Oh, hello. Hello. Oh, no. Oh, maybe we should have picked a different day.
Hello.
There we go.
Oh, I've appeared on stream there.
It's fine. It was half a second.
It appears that my camera's just stopped working.
It's just given up on life. Well, I can hear you, so that's positive.
So I did have a positive as well during that scene. I thought it was interesting seeing the stores and a new side of Khazad-dum, and you see them shopping around, and they mention that food is scarce in Moria at the moment. But so Disa all of a sudden just stops, doesn't she? She feels the rocks in the ground and she knows that there's an earthquake. But there's an awkward bit during that scene. There's two awkward bits. There's one where she says to Durin very quietly, I think she says something like "steady yourself," brace yourself, something like that. And then she shouts to everyone, "I said, listen, brace yourself." It's like, hold on, they wouldn't have heard you.
That's a good point.
And then all of a sudden, everyone just stops, and then you have the rocks falling, and it crashes through the bridge, which no one actually brings that up later on.
No.
There's no funerals, there's no remembering, because the rocks fell onto people, and people kicked it, so there was no bringing up of that. And then there's an awkward shot where Durin rugby tackles Disa, which would do her more harm because they don't move away from the original spot where they fell over from. He literally just rugby tackles her. He doesn't go on top of her to cover her up. He puts literally one arm over her head, and that's it. And then all of a sudden, everything's okay, and then they get back up. I really thought, I think throughout this whole episode and the other one, the acting and the directing's been really poor, to be honest, and the writing's been poor. Now, I know that they did have the writer's strike during this show, but it doesn't explain why the directing's so awful.
It doesn't feel any different from season 1, does it? So was there a writer's strike during season 1 as well? Was that the excuse for season 1?
Oh no, because season 1's so perfect that they are what did they say? They're making up. This is the true form of the Lord of the Rings. We're getting back to form. Although season 1 is perfect, and if you didn't like it, then you're negative. So
negative Nancy if you don't like it. Yep. Well, I've already given one of my positives. There you go. I've started with a positive. So, well, that's all I've got for the opening scene. No, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, there's no sort of repercussions for this at all. It all feels very small scale, despite this being like a massive budget. Everything just feels like very studio set, and we've got it doesn't feel like a huge sprawling dwarven community when all of this stuff's happened. We never really feel the effects of it. We just kind of move on and just go oh yeah, bad things are happening, we need rings. And it's but it's those moments where you account for the losses of this huge massive earthquake, this huge tectonic shift thing that's happened, where people have died, and yeah, no one addresses it. You're absolutely right. I don't have a note on that, but you're 100% about that. Oh god, the next scene. Jesus Christ. Have you got any more notes on Khazad-dum, or can we move on to the weird Evil Dead red filter dream vision that Galadriel
Huh.
has?
No, I think that was everything. I think there's something that's started to appear for me to do with the stuff within Khazad-dum. So I didn't mind Disa within season 1. I
Yeah.
thought she wasn't a bad character, but in season 2 so far, especially later on, she can't do anything wrong, and she's being very chastising. So straight away, she's sticking it on Durin, blaming him, and all that. So I think she's probably going to be very insufferable during this season. I mean, I've had enough of her from 2 episodes, so we'll see. But
It
yeah,
seems
that
to be
was
a running
everything I
thing,
had.
doesn't it? There's something about
Yeah.
her eyes which terrifies me as well. She's got like Anakin Skywalker Sith eyes. I don't know if she had them in season 1, but there's just something really unsettling about them every time there's a close up.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure why. I don't think those are her natural eyes. They can't be. They look like they've been digitally or like contact lenses or something. It's a very strange look.
And she's got no beard, so still haven't fixed that one.
Tiny little sideburns, the smallest sideburns ever. That's it. Yeah, but no beards. Right. Galadriel is planting some seeds, and then Celebrimbor shows up, and then weird shit starts happening. We get a lovely red filter, which I think did they do something with a red filter in season 1? Oh, it was I don't know if it was the opening scene, like the prologue, and you had like all these like the bodies of the fallen like in slow motion and everything was red. Seems to be their go-to. Slap a red filter on it. And Celebrimbor shows up and starts quoting Black speech. He's like 3 kings for the elven rings under the sky. He's doing all of that. Ash, Nash, Gimbadul kind of stuff. And then the seeds grow and it turns into the Evil Dead rape tree and starts raping Celebrimbor as he's still quoting this Black speech. And then it just like impales him. And oh my god, Morfydd Clark's acting in this scene, just the shocked expressions on her face, if you could even call them that. Part of me actually was going to use that as the thumbnail for this episode today. I was trying to think of which one sums it up. I decided to go with the Anatar one in the end, but it was a toss-up between that and Morfydd Clark's like, oh no, stop, please, come back expression on her face. Awful.
And when I think when she first found like the tentacles, like the tree branches reaching out, she let out like a little moan, and I was like, "What the heck is this?"
Yeah.
It's like, huh? And it's like, Jesus Christ! It's like,
I've got a note on that for a character in episode 3 who's got a particular brand, very very similar sound effect.
Yes, and someone else who can't act, and
it's a running theme in this show apparently.
The only thing that I like, and it's very small, is the fact that I think this is the show explaining that she's feeling guilt. Because I got angry at first when watching it, because I thought, hold on, Celebrimbor's here. Okay. And he said he's had an unexpected visitor who's Halbrand. I was thinking, oh God, this has to be a vision. But so yeah, you get the poor acting from herself, but Celebrimbor, man, every stream I go on about it, he is awful.
Yeah.
When I heard him delivering those lines, the 3 rings for the Elven Kings under the sky, I was like, oh God, no presence at all. So this is a vision then, isn't it?
Yeah, I some sense of foreboding, some doubt on her mind, maybe, or some nightmarish dream vision. To me, it's just utterly a pointless scene. I guess they're trying to think it's creative and nightmarish, but honestly, I was just laughing all the way through it. Like as he's like strapped to the tree, and he's like 7 for the Dwarf Lords in their halls of stone. I was like, oh god, this is really bad.
I
And then
have
we have like,
a
oh, sorry.
I have a major issue as well with this scene that follows
Yeah.
the next one.
Is it the
So
battle preparation with Gil-galad?
yes.
Yeah.
So firstly, she never brung this dream up or this vision up to Gil-galad straight away. She's got a thing really of just hiding key information
Yep.
from
Yep.
people that suits her. I don't get why she didn't straight away go, Luke, I've had kind of a glimpse into Sauron's plan.
Hmm.
You know, this is what he could potentially be doing. No, she only brings it up because Gil-galad forcibly, like, kind of gets her to say it.
Mm.
Apart from that,
Nothing kind of brings about that vision, does it? Because when you said she's like a glimpse into the enemy's plan, it reminded me of, when Gandalf says that in Return of the King. But there's a Palantir, and there's cause for Pippin to see to see glimpses like that. I don't think anything really prompts this vision, does it? I know they've made the rings, but everything's all been hunky dory apparently with the elves and the rings so far. As of episode 1, it's bringing bloom and life back to the trees and whatnot. And then
well,
all of a sudden this dream sequence kind of comes out of nowhere. But
it ends because the sequence ends. I think she's touching her ring, so I think it's the ring that's caused it.
oh yeah, they do
Which I
mention that. Yeah, she mentions to Gil-galad, doesn't she, that she's like, oh, it's allowed me to see things that have not yet come to pass. And I was like, I remember that line from Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. There's a lot of callbacks to the originals coming
Yeah.
up.
I've got the line here. He's
Awful.
like, you believe the rings have kindled your ability to see things that have not yet come to pass. So I was like,
Oh,
I know what you're trying to do.
oh, but
Oh, there's another
they'll lap
whimsical
it up.
quote from Gil-galad as well. It does not take the
Mm.
eye of an eagle to see your thoughts have flown far afield. I was like, what?
What the hell is that meant to mean? What the heck
What?
does that mean? Right, so it does not take an eye of an eagle to see that your thoughts have flown far.
It does not take the eye of an eagle to see your thoughts have flown far afield.
Is he smoking a zoot? What the heck is he on about?
I mean, that's just whimsical Tolkienian word salad there, isn't it? They're trying to be all lofty and intellectual, and it just falls flat. There's so many examples of lines like that in this series so far.
Yeah, because all they do is they speak it slowly, and that's how it's meant to hook you in as a wise quote. But it's
Yeah.
just very poor. Now, this scene, I have major issues with,
Go on.
and so they've got their war council, aren't they? You've got the commander, which I saw on Amazon, by the way. So the two people in there. So one's the commander of the south, I think it
Yeah.
was, commander of the west, and then Galadriel's the commander of the northern armies. Now it's one of them, one of the commanders said that they've got spies and that they've had an eye on Halbrand and they last saw him going into Mordor.
Mm-hmm.
So my first issue is why didn't they keep an eye on Halbrand to start off with? If they're tracking him all the way up to Mordor, how did they not see him then go back into Eregion? Seems though they've got a spy network and they're after this guy. Why did they just let him go as soon as he went into Mordor and no one found his whereabouts? The second thing, the issue that I have is timelines. It doesn't make sense because the last thing we see of Halbrand is in season 1. So he goes off to Mordor. No one knows apart from Elrond that he's Sauron at this point. So why would they send spies out to track his whereabouts during that bit? Because it must have only happened, before season 2, because he's already in Mordor and they're tracking him up until that point. So that doesn't make sense unless they knew somehow that he's Sauron, which they don't. They don't establish
because
that.
Galadriel kept it to herself. Yeah, and
Yeah, so that's a
Yeah.
major flaw.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
why would
That's
they
I
be
hadn't even
tracking
thought
him?
about that. Yeah.
So that doesn't make sense at all. And yeah, that was my main issue, is that
Hmm.
he should have been found. They should have already known that he was in um Eregion. It's just
Hmm.
awful. See, and these are the things they think, oh, ain't it cool? You know, we have shots of him in Mordor. Oh, we've got a spy network. We've already been tracking him, you see? It's like, no, it all falls apart when you actually think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even I didn't even clock that, but you're 100% right. Um. Yeah, my next note is just a line that Galadriel says. I think I mentioned this in the trailer reaction where she goes like, "Sauron needs not armies, but rings." I'm like, yeah, but he kind of needs armies too. That's why a lot of the time in Lord of the Rings, he's marshalling armies. Like, getting the rings is great and everything, but he's going to need armies to march in and move everyone off or murder the shit out of everyone. He's still going to need armies. He doesn't do that himself. He creates orcs. He has his lackeys to go out and
Mm.
go and take care of that. So he needs both. He needs both rings and armies. Then I've got a line here saying, um, I think Gil-galad mentions, I can't remember what he's referring to. He's saying like, "Oh, don't worry, like we're well manned, we're well defended." He said something that's like a 10-foot wall that he can't break down. He says like there is 10 feet of stone separating. I can't remember what he says. I know he mentioned something like that. And I'm like, what, you're saying that Sauron can't break through 10 feet of stone? Is that what he's saying there? Because that doesn't seem like a lot to hold Sauron back.
Mm. I mean, we saw him in the previous episode blow up and change the complete landscape.
That's what I mean.
So I just love as well that everyone already knows what Sauron's plan is.
Mhm.
Everyone knows, like, he's going to be, because they mentioned he's going to be attacking Adar and trying to win over his orcs. How did they know that? They don't
It's
know.
almost like they read the script or something, isn't it?
Yeah, and
If there is
I
one for
do
this.
I do love the fact that Galadriel can't be wrong, because they're talking about plans, and Gilgalad mentions that quote, which is ridiculous. And so she suggests to attack Mordor via the Anduin,
Mm.
and then without hesitation, without discussion, he's like, "Yeah, we're going along with that. You guys sort the plans out." It's like, jeez, can't do anything wrong.
I'm just
Doesn't
going to
even
check the
discuss.
Middle Earth map. Isn't the Anduin still a long, long way away from Mordor?
Ooh.
I could be wrong. I thought Anduin was like really far inland. Unless they're going to like sail so far and then just go on land. But as we know from a very wise Sean Bean, one does not simply walk into Mordor. So whether they're
Apart
walking
from
or marching,
Mordred.
that seems like a really fucking bad idea to me. But
Yeah.
I'm just going to check actually. So the Anduin. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, the Anduin does come all the way down south. It's sort of on the borders of Mordor. All right. Okay. I'll give them that. But I still think it's a really fucking bad idea. But it is relatively close. Okay. One thing that really boiled my piss, though, as it always does, Galadriel. I am the only one who can slay Sauron, and me alone. I'm like, shut the fuck up. And I think even like Gil-galad, maybe a little bit more eloquently than that, basically says words to that effect. But they're just trying to ship this, and he's saying like, "Oh, Sauron has deceived your mind, and you still care." And is this where she accidentally says Halbrand, and he's like, "Sauron, not Halbrand." Like she's still
Yeah.
fixated on this rugged Aragornish guy, and it's like you just know that some horny like middle-aged woman wrote this script. It's just like the same with like the Star Wars sequel trilogy. It's, can we stop trying to
Yeah.
do this fan fiction bullshit of, oh, I can change the bad guy, he's so dark and angsty and mysterious? It's like, it's so fucking anime. Actually, no, that's doing a discredit to some anime, because some anime actually do that pretty good. but like Rise of Skywalker, or the whole sequel trilogy with Rey, like that Reylo, and they were doing that in season 1, weren't they? Was it Galbrand and Haladriel or something like that? And they're still doing it, and you just know that it's going to get so much worse as season 2 goes on. When we have that fight scene where he's fighting with his crown for some reason, it's going to get so much worse, I think.
Oh, don't remind me about that. I've completely forgot that she has a fight with him.
Yeah. Where
Oh,
is Celeborn? Where are my dragons? Where is Celeborn?
exactly.
She's
He won't be
absolutely
in it.
desecrated his memory here.
Well, how the hell are they going to explain him rocking up?
I know. She'd be like, "Oh, I thought you were dead." As she's got her legs spread for Halbrand, apparently. Like,
yeah.
it's like Friends. We were on a break. But
They keep doing something during the show that I've noticed, and it pulls me out of it straight away. They keep doing like flashbacks to content that's in season 1. Like
yes,
they did
yeah,
it during this bit. They did it like her speaking to Halbrand, when Gilgalad's saying like, "Oh, he deceived you, and you were falling for him," and then it cuts back to a shot of her speaking to Halbrand, saying that the happiest she's ever been is now when she's killing orcs. It's like
that's it.
great,
Yeah, so that's later in the episode. But I have a note on that. Yeah, I've put random Halbrand flashback, and it's like, why? This is so superfluous. Why do we need this? It's got so
yeah.
little relevance to what's happening in the scene.
I think they've really done Gilgalad a real disservice because
Yeah.
Galadriel suspects that Sauron is on the move and that Celebrimbor's the target. And instead of acting on this, he just talks her down. And she's just like,
Yeah.
"Oh no, that's not going to happen. They're never going to do that." And I love how she knows what his plan is already. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh yeah, he's going to go to Celebrimbor." And then later on, she's like, "I reckon he is there. He's with Celebrimbor already." And
Mm-hmm.
still Gilgalad's like, okay, we're not going to send an army in. You can't go alone. So we're going to send you with a party. What? Surely, if you knew that he was at that location, you'd send your whole
Yeah.
army. It would be in lockdown. I mean, you saw a load of orcs could take him down. So surely his army,
Yeah.
full of highly skilled elves, and Waldrig's battered him already. So surely they could. And that's what made me laugh is when Gilgalad's like, "Oh, you couldn't take him on alone," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, well, we know someone who already has."
It's like, I have an army. We have a Waldrig, okay?
Yeah.
Like,
But
oh, it's
I
just
just
so. Well, Galadriel's like a just fucking Sherlock Holmes this season because in the last episode she did the same thing. It's like, I believe that Elrond would have entrusted the rings with someone old and ancient, and and it was Círdan, right? And she just deduces that out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, did you read the script? And yeah, she does the same in this one too.
it's like I believe that he'll be going after Celebrimbor and that he's already there. How do you know that?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they'll say like, "Oh, she had a feeling." It's like, all right, and that explains it.
Oh,
And
that
then
that
why
was in the
isn't
bloody Star Wars sequel trilogy. Whenever they need to explain something away, how do you know this? Oh, a feeling. Like, oh, cool. I won't ask any more follow-up questions then. Thank you for clearing that up.
I do like how we've seen that she's meant to be like rebellious and that, and she doesn't
Yeah.
listen to orders yet. For this major thing, she's been disobeying Gilgalad for years and years and years, trying to find Sauron. Now that she
Mm,
knows where Sauron is, she decides to follow orders.
yeah.
Like
It,
what?
it, but she's still being a bitch about things. There's a bit later on where she's so manipulative. She's so gaslighting, manipulative. It's a scene later on. Um, and yeah, like I could have swore that the actress said like she was going to try and play Galadriel was going to feel different this series. I guess they were going to try and like course correct from how they made her in series 1, and they absolutely haven't. Like, they, if anything, they've doubled down so far, because she's just absolutely contemptible. She really is. And honestly, like, the other elven character isn't much better in the next scene. So
Yeah.
this is where we cut to Celebrimbor's gaff, and this is his assistant character, right? The blonde elf. I can't remember her name. And it's not just sort of pertaining to her, but just the way, like, she's an elf, but the way they act, the way they, like, her voice, her mannerisms, her cadence, the way that they carry themselves, it's just so non-elvish to me. It doesn't feel grandiose. It doesn't feel elegant. It doesn't feel angelic or anything like that. It's like, my master Celebrimbor told me to come out here and greet you at the gates. I'm like, why?
What?
You know, it's like, what? It's so simplistic. It's just, you would never have an elven character in Peter Jackson's trilogy talking like that. Do you know what I mean? There was always that air of mysticism about them, and of real magic and awe. And in this one, it's just, yeah, my master Celebrimbor doesn't want to bring you inside, so you're gonna have to wait outside. I'm like, whoa, like, you're not an elf. Why are you acting like this? So I don't know if that's a problem with the direction of the actress that they've got to play this elven character, but it's not even just her. Like, I'm not even just gonna harp on her character.
Yeah.
That's pretty much, you know, every other elvish character that we have.
I have another major issue with this episode. I think this episode for me had like issues where I'm like, hold on, plot wise, this doesn't make sense. So Celebrimbor rejects Halbrand entering in.
Yeah.
And so he sent his apprentice to do his dirty work. And I love how Halbrand just goes, you know what? I'm not going to move.
Yeah, I'm just going to wait.
Go. No one chucks him out.
No.
And this is the next bit that really annoys me. So Celebrimbor's refused his entry because he's promised Galadriel he won't have any more dealings with him. That's his words. So hold on. Why would Galadriel not tell him that, hold on, he's Sauron, like, if you see him, don't deal with him? Because she's already said, oh, promise me you don't do it, you don't deal with him. So why the hell would she not tell him the reason?
That's a pretty
what she got
big
to hide from him.
Key piece of information she's leaving out of that letter there. Yeah. So if you're going to go through the trouble of warning him, yeah, why not just include that too?
Yeah, and why? No, because, and another thing, like, why is he not questioned it? Why has he not gone, hold on, why can't we deal with him? Like, what's wrong? I don't see why she hasn't said anything, because if he's refused her entry, it's something massive. He's not even willing to treat with him at first. But, you know, we see the placid Celebrimbor, who's just like, oh, you know, has he gone? You know, this is someone who's meant to be banished from your realm. He's like, oh, is he gone yet? Awful. But that, for me, breaks a lot of law. I would love to see their conversation. She's like, don't deal with him. You know, don't have any more dealings. And he's like, well, all right then. Okay. Awful from the writing point of view. Absolutely,
yeah, it's like no further questions, Your Honor. Just yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of this, to be honest, a lot of the problems that I've had is from season 1 where Galadriel didn't say anything.
Which they still haven't gave a compelling reason as to why, other than the fact that she's kind of smitten with Halbrand and she secretly loves him and cares for him and wants to bring him back to the light side. Other than that reason, but in terms of, you know, betraying her people, betraying her kind, endangering not only the lives of those closest to her, but everyone in Middle-earth, she would rather do that out of some selfish prospect of, you know, shipping those two characters together. That's ultimately what it comes down to for me. I think that's what the show's telling us based on her actions and what she's saying and what she's insinuating.
Yeah, and again, they've got a spy network. Why didn't they track him?
Yeah. I mean, they have in the next scene, they mentioned something about, is this Celebrimbor says like, oh, well, I have messengers from Galadriel. They should be here any day now. And then it cuts to a scene where the elvish messengers are dead on the floor and being dragged away by chains or something.
Yeah, yeah. I heard a rumor that the reason why they're dead are not orcs. It's the
Barrow Whites.
Barrow-wights.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought it would be.
So we'll be seeing more of them. But
And then we
he's
have the
already
camera pan down to that message on the floor. Now, I'm guessing because we're going to have Galadriel taking down all of the Barrow Whites probably. That message is probably going to come up again. Do you think she'll find that at the scene of the crime?
yeah, because that message is meant to be that Halbrand Sauron,
Yeah.
but you could have saved yourself all that hassle. You've already talked to Celebrimbor about Halbrand.
Yeah.
Why didn't you bring it up then?
Yeah.
Straight away,
Totally.
it's a big issue. It's a massive
Yeah.
issue.
I think GT Verba, hi, by the way, thank you for tuning in, has said, everyone is an idiot in this show. You're 100% right. Yes, they are. Speaking of more idiots, I mean, the next scene I've got is Karas Gaia, I think is how you pronounce it. This is West Rune. I sent you a text regarding this whole moment. This is where I turned the episode off last night. I was trying to watch this episode at trying to get it done, and it was like 3 a.m, and I thought, I can't. I'm not watching any more of this. And it was right after this scene. So we're in Western Rune, and the moth witch ladies, we still don't know. He calls them acolytes, and I thought, oh no, I'm thinking of Star Wars Acolyte, and it's about just as good. We have Kieran Hines now, who's credited as the Dark Wizard. Now, to me, he looks very much like Saruman, just in terms of appearance. You know, his robes, his hair, and everything. It is clearly an Istar as well, but he's not credited as Saruman. He's just the Dark Wizard at the moment. Now, I've heard some people say that this is an original character. This isn't going to be Saruman. But then that really annoys me. I mentioned, there was meant to be 5 Istari, and if you're going to create an original one, that's already a problem to me. I don't think he's going to be one of the blue wizards. Like, to me, it has to be Saruman. And if that's the case, I don't know why he's evil at this point, because he shouldn't be. But then again, there's many things that should happen and should be a certain way in the lore at this point, and they're just ignoring them. So hell, maybe it can be an evil Saruman at this point. Who knows? But he's summoning all the moth women just saying that out loud. What the fuck are we doing? Saruman is summoning all the moth women to him, and they're kind of doing like a blood sacrifice to bring Slim Shady back from series 1, although I think she's played by a different actress in this. She looked kind of different a little bit. I'm like,
same.
Oh, is it actually the same? Oh, they did something different with her makeup then. She looks slightly different. Oh yeah, because we're all clamoring for that character to come back, weren't we? Well, I don't even know how to explain this. What's going on? I want to hear your take on it. What are we dealing with here?
Oh, well, I do love the creative geniuses at Amazon calling him the Dark Wizard. That's his name. Yeah. Wow. I mean, great. So I like this actor, by the way.
Oh, he's great.
He's a great actor, but he delivered some lines pretty awfully during this scene. He really oversold it. And I was like, it's not great. So they summon fucking, who's it? Eminem. They summon him up. And I don't know if you caught it. I was trying to count the amount of women that were present during that scene. Did you catch the amount of number? Because I'm just thinking there better not be 9.
Well, that was my prediction, right? Was going to be they were going to be end up being the ring race, because when they died, when the 3 of them died, when Slim Shady died, or whatever happened to them at the end of series 1, I still don't know what happened with that whole thing. By the way, that was really weird. When they died, they kind of turned into the wraith forms of the when Frodo slips the ring on at Weathertop. and you have them, in their kind of like regal, and they kind of look messed up and ethereal. They kind of did that thing, that kind of animation when they died, and I thought, are we saying that they're the Nazgul? Which I really hope. It did look dangerously close to 9, but then it was either in this episode or later. Saruman mentions, I want 9 rings for men, so I'm kind of hoping they're going to stay true to that, but we'll see. But no, I didn't clock the number of them. No.
Well, I do love that she also knows Sauron's plan. It's like everyone knows it, apparently. I mean, he's meant to be in hiding. He's meant to be dead at this point, but everyone knows it. So he has been tracking Gandalf, or not Gandalf, apparently, for a while now, and he's tracking him and the 2 halflings. And he really wants them, doesn't he? He wants to. I don't know if he wants to kill him or to use him. And so they've been tracking them, and one of the spies came in with one of the stupid masks on the faces, which were absolutely ridiculous. Looks like something from a Poundland shop.
So all of these people are in the Dark Wizard's employ then. So
yeah,
he's hired all of these moth witch women who they've then hired these trackers, or has he also hired the trackers? What's the point? So the trackers find them and go, yeah, they're here. And then what? Then the moth women go out after, and but then the tracker was like, oh well, no, because I'll kill them if he doesn't turn himself in. I'm like, well, why don't you just have the trackers then? What's the point of the moth women? What are they doing?
yeah. And the other problem I have is that if the moth women can travel like what they did, they can turn into moths and move, then why aren't they tracking them?
Exactly. Yes.
It makes more sense. They can be more elusive than, hearing fucking hoofs pounding the ground from miles away. And, they don't even hide the trackers. They're out right in the open.
I know.
And again, if they've already
buckets in those tin masks as well, in the middle of room,
100%. And what I don't get is that so they've gone all the way out. They found the whereabouts of Gandalf and the Harfoots, and then they've, instead of I don't know, probably having a raven or something, or having a big group of them and sending one out, they've then returned back to relay their whereabouts to then go back out again. How does that make sense?
No need to report that to him unless we have something to report. Like, yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I think this is the first time that they refer to the Harfoots as halflings.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, pretty
it's
sure.
Something that jumped out straight away. I was like, oh, okay. Can they do that?
So find the halfling. Yeah. They also make mention that the trackers have got like ruined or like tortured flesh or something. I know they got like leprosy or something, or some kind of disease. And I don't know if the Dark Wizard's promised to like restore them to health or something, hasn't he? I think there's a line about that. One of them says that. I'm pretty sure.
I think
there is a curse on his flesh. Yeah, so the main like ringleader of them is credited as Brank or Brank. It's like there's 2 dots over the A, so it's like Brank the Tracker. Said there is a curse on his flesh and will slaughter the halflings. He's like, and what will you do if you can't convince the wizard to come here? He's like, well, then I'll kill the halflings. I'm like, okay, but that still might not convince him. So you still have an Istar problem. So what if you kill Poppy and what's the fucking name, Nori, and then Gandalf's still like, yeah, well, I still ain't coming with you, mate. I'm like, oh, well, this is a problem. So it's not very convincing, I suppose.
100%. That's another big issue that you've just brought up there. Why isn't he going out to fight him? Because those moth women should already have told him that, Luke, he's powerful. He defeated us. We can't handle him. So what? You're going to send some common raiders out to go bring him in?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
immortal. Yeah, and even like
Well,
Saruman even like has a jibe about him being mortal. Doesn't he say that? Yeah, no, I think that's the question he has. He's like, and why should a mortal be able to accomplish this task when he calls them like white wings or something, doesn't he, or
acolytes.
something? And he
Is that
says
the
like
bit where he
when
says,
they could not, and he's like, because I will kill the two halflings if he doesn't. Like,
"Oh,
great.
yeah, but
Could the witch women, the moth women, just kill the halflings as well, and you'd be in the same circumstance? They can get around quicker
exactly."
as well. They can fly with the wind. So
Oh, well, I can't wait to see more of them in the show. By the way, they're
it
gonna
made
be
me
in
laugh.
it.
Yeah, it made me laugh when Kieran Hines, what we're assuming is Saruman, says something about like, I have heard whispers from common villagers or whatever, and Muma kill thieves. I'm like, who the fuck in their right mind is going around stealing Mumakil? Unless it's a little baby one. I mean, they're very big Oliphants. Like, I don't know how. I'm assuming a baby one is still going to be quite substantial based on how high Mumakil can grow. I wouldn't
Yeah,
want to steal a Mumakil, is all I'm saying. Fuck that.
yeah, same.
Where, where would you even start? Like, I mean, you can't really be discreet about it, can you? You're stealing a goddamn elephant.
Yeah, and who did they say is stealing it? Was it the band of raiders
No,
stealing
no.
them?
Saruman makes mention that he's trying to find news, and he's only heard drips and drabs from like
Mhm.
commoner villagers and Mumakil thieves, implying
Right.
that Mumakil thieves is like a pretty big trend in Rune. I'm like, okay,
R- What in the vast nothingness? Okay.
yeah. Well, War of the Rohirrim's doing that as well. Mumakil are meant to be in the south in the jungles, as far as I'm aware, but apparently they're in Rune, in the barren, desolate wastelands of Rune.
Hmm. Oh, do you reckon we'll be seeing Mumakil then? There's a little name drop.
I hope not. I'm hoping it's just like a world building thing. Just another name drop, but I guess we'll see. Got a couple more comments. GT Verba says, "Did the whole Sauron getting stabbed by Adar happen like 2 weeks before Galadriel killed the troll?" No, I think we said it was like 1,000 years, didn't we? Because it said it was at the dawn of the Second Age, and I believe the show's meant to take place 1,000 years into the Second Age. So he was just a venom like symbiote husk on the side of that mountain for probably close to a decade, a millennium, I'm guessing. Um, but yeah, let's see what other comments we have. Taralenia Moranway says, at least very soon before that, if not 2 weeks. And didn't Sauron in his speech talk like Morgoth was just defeated? Yeah, so yeah, as I say at the beginning, it's meant to be at the dawn of the Second Age. Now, I think doesn't the War of Wrath kind of cap off the First Age? Or it might even, yeah, I think it does, doesn't it? I think the end of the War of Wrath is like the end of the First Age, and then sort of Sauron becoming Anatar and everything like that, the Lord of Gifts. I think that begins the Second Age and finishes with the Last Alliance. I'm pretty sure, and then we're into the Third Age after that. I think that's how it works. Yeah. The next scene that I've got, I apologize by the way if I sound a bit stuffy. I think I'm going down with a cold or something, so hence this. So I'm all good, guys. We're gonna keep on going on. So the next scene is Gandalf and the Hobbits. And this is where I think they're trying to discuss like a name for Gandalf. Apparently, he's trying to find his name because apparently at this point he's still called the Stranger, and he doesn't know his name and he can't remember where he came from. And he's seeing like flashes of the future, and he needs to find a staff so that he can be truly magical and maybe channel his magic because he's still very, he can't control it at this point. And they're trying to think of a name for him. And at this point, he's like, I hear something on the wind, and it's hooves, and they're approaching. So they hide, and it's this tracker, this Brank. And I don't know about you guys, like, let me know in the comments if you thought this too. It was really trying to do the whole ring wraith scene from Fellowship of the Ring, where they're hiding under the log and they're trying to keep quiet, and it's kind of leaning over. And did anyone else have that? It felt like it was trying to do that whole Fellowship of the Ring thing for me, and just didn't have any of the same tension or investment that film does. GT Verba says, so the stabbing is supposed to be thousands of years before, and it took Sauron like a long time to reconstruct. That's what we guessed, yeah, because everything Middle-earth mentioned during that scene, it constantly keeps fading to black and fading back in, which feels awkward because it's fading in and out on the same shot. But I think that's meant to infer like a huge passage of time, because, as I say, it starts it off, it says the dawn of the Second Age. And I think they mentioned that this series is meant to take place 1,000 years into the Second Age. So, yeah, by the time he falls out of the mountain and starts eating humans, that's the point. That's it's been like a millennium, I'm pretty sure, and he's just been slowly reconstructing himself. Like, he'll eat a rat here, and then it might be, 200 years go by and he eats a spider and he regenerates a little bit more. So I'm assuming it took a long time. It doesn't feel like a long time because we keep fading in and out on the same shot, and there's no real sense of, a passage of time. I think they could have shown that a little bit better. And Toralenian says, yes, I was confused by when you said stabbing. For some reason, I thought of his re-embodiment. I at least that's how I read the scene. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it's meant to go down. Yeah, and these wonderful trackers can't find the two hobbits and Gandalf hiding underneath like a little rock or a little bush. I guess you could maybe make an argument for that in the Peter Jackson films and say, oh, these super in tune ring wraiths can't find four hobbits underneath the log, and they're not being exactly quiet. They're heavy breathing. He throws that satchel full of the mushrooms. I guess you could maybe make that excuse for that movie too. But I thought these are meant to be the best, most expert trackers ever. And they can't find them. They don't even attempt. They don't even choose to look under the rock or the little bit of bush or whatever they're hiding under. And I'm just like, this is shit. This is just so he's going to go back empty-handed again. Oh, whoop-de shit, great. He's going to reconvene with his men, whatever. We then cut to Khazad-dum, and we have Disa in tow with, I believe, two other dwarven women. And this scene. I hope everything in Middle Earth just popped away for a second. He's going to be back in a second. So I'm just carrying on my own right now. I'm just not I'm not talking over him. He's gone away for a second. I was going to say as well, yeah, Toralenian says the acorns in the hair are great camouflage. Why are they still wearing them? They've been... I was mentioning this in episode 1. I really don't know how much time has passed from the end of season 1 to here, because for most of the other storylines, it feels like no time at all. But then for stuff like this, the Half-Foots left their home, and now we're in Rune. They've walked all of that way. They haven't got horses. They've walked all the way to Rune. But then in episode 1, Poppy shows up and says, you guys haven't gone that far at all. You're walking in circles. And I'm like, well, they clearly haven't, because we're in a desert. We're in Rune, so they have walked considerably far. But yeah, then as I say, like all the other storylines seem to take place directly after. So I don't know. I mean, there's characters in episode 3 that are in Middle Earth and return to Numenor within a scene, which is pretty much what they did when they did in season 1, where they enter the battle. They set sail from Numenor, and then pretty much it was either within that same episode or the very next episode, they're in really far into Middle Earth. So there's no concern about time or distance or geographical location. It just makes the world feel so much smaller. And, Game of Thrones did that as well towards the end when they were trying to rush it, and even the Hobbit films did that too. Do you remember when Legolas and Tauriel go on their side quest to Gundabad and then also ride back to... So they're at the shores of the Long Lake, and they ride to Gundabad and back to Dale within the same day. That's absurd. So yeah, even those films were doing it too. It just comes across as really rushed, and to me diminishes the world building. So we have Disa. We're back to Khazad-dum now, in tow with two other dwarven women, and apparently there's a custom in the dwarvish race where they sing to the rocks, and the rocks sing back or tell them where to dig or tell them what's happening. They have like this deep spiritual connection by singing to the rocks, like a lullaby or like a chant. I'm pretty sure that isn't in the appendices somewhere. I'm pretty sure that's made out of whole cloth. Utterly ridiculous. And then the next scene as well. So they say a bunch of our chambers have collapsed, and we're out of crops. Like all the farms, all the crops have withered, or been destroyed from the cave in. And we're gonna have to send like a party out there, a bunch of miners to try and clear the debris so that we can get sunlight again. And then Disa says like, no, we're gonna sing to the rocks, and the rocks are gonna fall down and create sunlight again for us. I think that was the plan. I kind of lost the plot with this a little bit. I thought it was really random. So anyway, she starts singing, and it's really cringy. It's just, this was almost like a power of one, a power of two, a power of many scene from the Acolyte. Not quite as bad as that, but still pretty fucking bad. And I think like the last chamber of light, she makes the rock crumble. She basically fails, and the last like patch of light goes out. And I think King Durin says something like, the singers have never failed us. The mystical ancient women dwarven singers of yore have never failed us, but they have today. So they're going to send like the miners in to clear the debris. Very, very random scene. What is interesting here is that Disa's children, so King Durin's grandchildren, are actually referenced. Now, yeah, Prince Durin and Disa had two children in season 1. And it was really weird because they never really had any scenes where they interacted with the children. The children would always be wearing these like big cumbersome helmets where their faces were obscured. And it almost felt like it was the ghostly apparitions of two phantoms of two long lost children that just happened to be haunting the frame. Like the whole Wizard of Oz Easter egg thing where you're meant to see like a hanging munchkin in the background and it's kind of creepy. It felt like that. It felt like it's like, can they actually see those two children in the background there that are play fighting, sword fighting? And they never get fucking referenced. They never got referenced in episode 1. They do get referenced in this. And he's like, how are my grandchildren? And she's like, oh, they're well. They miss their grandfather. They miss tugging on his beard. I'm like, but we still don't see them. It's just weird to me. It feels weird and unnatural. Yeah, Tarlanian says the showrunners, writers have no clue about time and distance. Tolkien, on the other hand, has extremely concerned with it all being realistic. Well, I mean, my God, the genius of that man. I've been listening to the Two Towers audiobook, the Phil Dragash audiobook. And chapters can go by of characters just traveling. And he knows the map like the back of his hand. He knows everything down to every mile, to every hill, to every cairn, every valley, every tributary and stream. Like he's got it up here, and he's got it all laid out and the timeline and everything. So he knows exactly how far characters need to travel, and everything marries up. Everything's so meticulous because that's a sign of a great mind and a great writer who takes care in what they're writing. Same can't be said for the team behind the Rings of Power, unfortunately. And then we just have Durin in the mine. He's toiling in the mines, and he's being ridiculed by all the other miners who, they're saying, "Oh, Prince Durin, you finally getting his hands dirty. He's getting blisters. Like, oh, we had blisters when we were 5 years old. We're tough." So they're giving him shit basically, and Durin is not happy, and he needs to try and find a way to fix his problem. He wants to try and reconnect with his father. and to also rebuild the dwarvish fortune, essentially, because they're kind of all on hard times at the moment. Let's see. So still waiting on everything in Middle Earth to come back. I'm just going to carry on. I'm just going to keep blitzing through. So then we have Elrond and Galadriel. And so far in the show, I'll speak as I find, like, I'm not keen on the actor they've got playing Elrond or like the look of the character or whatnot. But Elrond to me is the only character so far who is spitting facts. He to me is voicing everything that I'm feeling as an audience member. When he's like railing against Galadriel, he's actually pointed out very valid points which are all just constantly swept under the rug, or Galadriel will completely gaslight him or deflect to something else, and nothing will actually ever get addressed. I think we have everything in Middle Earth back.
I'm back.
He's back.
What have I missed?
So I mentioned about Gandalf and the hobbits in the desert, and them trying to recreate the ring wraith, searching for over the log, like looking for them, and they're hiding under a rock. These
That's interesting.
Trackers can't find them.
I interpreted a different scene. What they took it from. So in the scene where Sam he falls down the cliff outside of the Black Gates, and then they hide there, and then you see them looking through the cloak, and then you've got like the Easterlings like looking around for them. That's the scene that I picked up from, but that's actually interesting. It is probably more like the Nazgul hunting them, because you see like, I'm pretty sure you see like creepy crawlies around. So I love
they have a
how
snake in this, don't they? I think he kick a snake off a rock or something. Yeah.
And I never thought about that actually. These master trackers didn't find them.
Yeah.
They're literally right there. You've tracked them all this way on what? And you couldn't see any footsteps for them going into hiding. But another issue that I had with this is that they didn't even wait for them to like move. They didn't wait like 10 minutes for them to go. As soon as they went around the corner, all burst out, start
mouthing
talking
off
at normal volume.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. And I love how they've set up Gandalf's name for future episodes.
I know.
We're going to be getting that.
What about, was it Dodrick? You already said that. I'm like, oh, this is our humor. Okay, this is the jokes they're going with in this.
And just in case you didn't get it before, they mentioned that beautiful quote again. No one goes off trail, and no one wanders alone, apart from the crippled.
When they said that, honestly, one of the only shot that kind of lives rent free in my head and just likes to appear in my mind's eye sometimes is Lenny Henry leading the Hobbit conga through nobody goes off trail, da 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 da, hey, and no one gets left behind. Do you remember that scene? It was so fucking strange. He's wearing like this big headdress kind of thing, and they're all in like feathers and yeah. And then the other thing I have is Disa and the dwarf women singing to the rocks.
Oh, right. So I love how everyone's just openly talking and blaming the king at this point. Everyone's doing it. It's like, oh yeah, it's his fault. So they blame, was it Elrond for entering Moria?
Yeah, they believe letting an elf into their realm has cursed them and like doomed them to ill fortune or something. Yeah.
Right. And then so Disa, like the SS that she is, so she quashes the talks and basically threatens them. Again, the dwarven women, no beards. Sideburns aren't a beard. Come on, it's not hard.
There's another like vacuous quote here as well, which I should have written down, but doesn't she say something like, are you are you peddling in conjecture or something? Because the dwarven women are kind of talking behind the back, and she says like, gossip is like a songbird. It tweets, but then it's a
Yeah,
meager feast or something. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, just
yeah.
shut the
It's
fuck
like,
up.
was it like? It sounds something from afar, but then when you get closer, it's bad. It's like, what the heck are you talking about?
So shut
Just
up.
say treason's treason.
Yeah.
Jesus. It's like you
And then
don't
she
see
starts singing
Gimli
to rock.
talking like this.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Oh,
Exactly. It's just so yeah.
I love how we get our first introduction to Narvi, and it's basically
Yeah.
he's trying to explain, like, the crops are failing and they need to find a way, and he has a solution. But as
Yeah.
soon as he goes to say the solution, he's cut off straight away.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, this has got a better plan.
Yep. Sisters are
She's
doing
gonna
it for
fix it.
themselves. Yep.
Yeah, she's the only one that can fix it. And yeah, and then we just get a shot of her. So she starts screaming at the rocks, and I'm like, oh my god. Like she just starts going, oh, ah! It's like Jesus Christ. And I'll give him credit. It didn't succeed.
No,
And
the
I was
rock's
shocked
just like,
about
shut the fuck up and just collapses.
that. Will she face punishment for that? I mean,
No.
all's Durin does is he kind of says like, "Oh, the bond is broken," but he doesn't say like, "Oh, you failed." Doesn't
Yeah.
tell her off for that.
That was our one
Um,
patch of light. That was the one hope that we had, and you just extinguished it with your fucking warble throughout the yeah.
yeah. Well, we have rebellion on the rise, so
Well, just before that mine stuff, I had a note, and I mentioned this already, but the grandchildren actually get referenced. We don't see them. It's so strange and weird to me. These two
yeah.
phantom children that of Prince Durin and Disa, but they actually get referenced. They're like, oh, they miss their grandfather. They miss tugging on his beard. I'm like, okay.
I'm glad they said beard. I
Yeah,
was
I know.
about
Christ mentioned they're tugging on. Whoa, now.
Whoa.
Now then. Like, oh, God. Yeah, then we
So
just see Durin in the mine. But GT Verba, actually, I never even thought of this, but he's totally right. Oh, sorry, no, it's Taralinian says the blisters thing, because they're ridiculing Prince Durin for being a prince, not getting his hands dirty. He's just polishing gems all day, and he's not actually getting stuck in. But the blisters thing doesn't fit with the previous season, where he was shown working, and he did that contest, that trial by stone or whatever it was, in season 1. Yeah,
yeah, because wasn't he the best one in it?
yeah,
That's why he went up against him.
yep.
And that scene was poor. Like, you're down here and you got blisters, and then one of them just slaps him,
Yeah.
and then he goes, do that again, and I'll bite your fingers off. Ooh, and then he turns his back, and then he just pushes him over, and then that's it. He
He
does
doesn't do anything.
nothing.
Yeah. I thought it
It's
was
like,
going to be like a proper
ooh,
swap down there at that point, but yeah.
same. He just does nothing and and goes away.
Yeah.
Just weak.
GT Verba says, I'm not watching the show, but isn't it weird that Elrond steals the rings and a couple of days or hours after he's working again with Galadriel and even put him in charge? Yeah.
100%. I said that
Yeah.
the last stream. I was like, he's literally faced no consequences. He should be in prison.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Elrond and Galadriel, that's my next scene. And
Oh,
I've actually got Elrond is the only character who's spitting straight facts about Galadriel and Sauron in this whole series so far for 2 episodes straight. And this is where you get that random Halbrand flashback from season 1 that we mentioned earlier. But like, no one's ever accountable. He's bringing up these very relevant things, and Galadriel just continues to deflect. To gaslight him completely, just bring up things that are completely unrelated to the questions that are actually being fired at her, and it's all in the hope of shipping these two characters together. Like, she's just being really horny. She just fancies Halbrand. It's like, oh no, I can change him. But I'm totally on Elrond's side throughout all this. I don't know about you. He's the only one who has like any kind of shred of sense to me.
100%. He mentions like hit by them using the rings, they are going along with Sauron's plan, and it's true. I don't get why any one of them will be like, you know what, we're not going to listen to Elrond here. We're going to use them, even though Sauron has had a hand in it. I thought this episode he actually stood up for himself more,
Yeah.
apart from the ending. I thought, oh, he's actually growing a pair. He's sticking by his word, and then that gets undone by the end. So that development went. I just love how she enters the room. So he's working. It looks like he's working on. Is it part of a ship?
Ship, yeah, it looks like it is. Yeah, some carpentry work. Yeah.
So he's doing that, and then she so placidly says, you know, she thinks Sauron's in a Region. Like no urgency. It's just like, oh, we think he's there, and he's like, she's been tasked to get a little Avengers squad, hasn't she, together of
Yeah.
elves, and we see
Yeah.
that in the trailers, the squad that she has, and they want Elrond to be a part of that, and he refuses.
Mm.
Which good,
Yeah,
good on him,
totally.
because everything that he's ever said, because he's a politician as well within the show, they've just backhanded it away. His voice carries no weight to it, but finally he speaks up for himself and, tells her no. And I love how as soon as he kept saying, like, not listening to it, she's like just grabbing him straight
Yeah.
away to make him listen to what she has to say. And he just doesn't look like he can be bothered.
Yeah.
But I thought it was the actor's probably best performance as Elrond. I thought
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
he was actually good in this scene.
I say maybe I'm just connected with him more in this scene because, as I say, he's right on the money with where I'm at with the whole situation and asking all of these very relevant questions, which are just not getting answered properly. And he's just calling her out like she should be. The next scene I have, so I had one positive from the previous episode, and it was cruelly taken away from me in this episode, and I have no idea why they did this. It's so strange. So we got introduced to Kid and the shipwright in the last
Yeah,
episode, and we both said that we thought the actor was fine, didn't blow us away or anything, but we thought he was fine. But the one positive I had was good attention to detail. He's the only elf with a beard because elves have like a weird aging cycle, and Círdan is like super ancient, and he has a beard, and he had a beard. For some reason in this episode, he's clean shaven, and I'm like, you couldn't even let us have that, could you, Amazon? You did a good thing, and then you snatched it away within the course of one episode. What the fuck?
yeah,
And then he's just playing with the fishes, really, isn't he? With his magical ring.
yeah. I mean,
Torturing a fish for a couple of seconds by dragging it out of water so it suffocates and then putting it back in. Oh, that's nice. Thanks, kid. And lover of all things to do with the water and the oceans and the creatures within it.
yeah. I never expected to see him having a shave, and it just didn't make sense.
I was just
But
like, well, what was the point in giving him a beard in the first place? Then, if in the next episode you were gonna, it feels like they
yeah,
fucked up with the production, or maybe it was like a reshoot or something. That's what it feels like.
yeah, and it just felt like they were rehashing the same conversation again. The rings are bad,
Yeah.
Elrond saying, and then he's like, "Oh no, they're good," and then he dumps his hand into the water, and then I can't remember. He doesn't chuck a fish, does it? Does a fish just jump out of the water?
When he
And
grabs
is
it, I
like
think, doesn't
attracted.
it? It's attracted to him, and then I don't know if it jumps out of the water. I can't remember if he grabs it, and then it's just like
Oh,
floundering about on the rock, like gasping for air. He's just delivering this like lofty speech.
yeah. I don't get why they shaved it. The only reason I could think of is, like you say, it was reshot
We're
and
gonna
he
get
must
like
have
the
had a
Henry
different role.
Cavill. We're gonna get like the Henry Cavill moustache thing from Justice League.
Right, please, if you do an edit for the Rings of Power, please, please add that in.
No joke. Every episode I watch of this, I think if I were to fan edit this show in any way, shape, or form, what the fuck could I do with it? I'm like, everything is wrong. I've got to gut the whole thing. I'll be lucky if I genuinely get about 5 minutes out of this of accuracy. I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to have some kind of Kate Blanchett Galadriel voiceover. I'll show a couple of shots from the War of Wrath from the prologue of episode 1, and then maybe Anatar in the clouds like Jesus Christ or something. I don't know. That's it. That's a lot.
We got that to look forward to.
Oh, I know, it's coming up soon. The
The
next shot I've
Messiah.
just got is that the next scene is just Gandalf collapses in the desert, and then he finds his staff, or at least a temporary staff, because it disintegrates. I don't think it repairs itself, does it? So I think this is just like a temporary one that we see.
Yeah, so that scene made me laugh. I can't take any of these scenes seriously, that like the Harfoot scene. So they're just lying on a mat and he's just dragging them, like they're not doing any of the hard work, and then he passes out, doesn't he? And we get another callback to the old films where they've got the water tankard, and I think it's Nori who spills the last few drops onto the floor. And then in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Rune, Poppy manages to find
a well.
the only well. She knows where it is. I love how she knows where it is and didn't already go to it before. She's like, oh, now that he's dehydrated, I know where there's a well. Oh, it's over there. And like you said, randomly, there's a staff on the floor. Oh, why was that there? Don't know. And then it does disintegrate. The staff does. So it isn't the one that he uses. But that scene was so bad. It was so awful.
But it was a wizard staff, wasn't it? That was a wizard staff that just happened to be there.
I think so, because I can't see how they would explain.
He did his magical spell, didn't he? He did his little tornado spell. Yeah.
I don't know
what. When Gandalf collapsed and his face is all sore and he's in this gown, he really looked like Jim Caviezel Jesus from Passion of the Christ for some reason. The Mel Gibson movie.
So yeah, we did. To be fair, and we have the Raiders found them.
Yeah.
And then so they go on full attack mode, and then he starts using his magic, which causes
and he puffs and he blows them all away.
Yeah, he blows Nori and Poppy to the Wizard of Oz.
So I put so Nori and Poppy are dead, right? Because they fly high in the if they come crashing down. Yeah. That's it. So I'm assuming they're going to end up in Storeland, right? That's going to be our next bit.
You'd think so. I mean, there's a couple of issues there. So for one, in an atmosphere such as inside of a tornado, you can't breathe because the winds are going that fast. So they should have already suffocated.
Yeah.
There's number one. Two, Gandalf's able to hear them crying in all that wind. He just goes straight to them. In a sandstorm, his visibility should be impaired.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're surviving. I don't know how, but they cut away from the scene, so they lived.
So why was there a magical wizard staff that just there? Did I miss something? I know it was like in a vision, but why is there just one there?
I think it'll be said that Tom Bombadil's dropped it there.
Oh,
he knew what was happening. Because how the hell are you going to explain it? It's literally just randomly there.
So
I don't get it.
He blows all the raiders away, and they're like, "Looks like the raiders are blasting off again." And they're gone for the time being. They're really threatening, aren't they? They're really imposing, these raiders. Every time they've tried to do something, they've just fucked up. You know what they're like? They're like the Knights of Ren from Rise of Skywalker. You remember those incredibly memorable characters that looked all imposing and did sweet fuck all? It's the equivalent of them.
Yeah.
Like, they're doing nothing.
100%.
Then we have Celebrimbor. We're back to good old Celebrim. And he's making Ithildine. It mirrors only starlight and moonlight. and he's fashioning the letters because he's going to be doing the doors of Durin, I expect, isn't he, at this point? Or has he already done those doors? I'm not sure. But if he's just come up with these moonlight letters, then I'm guessing, he'll be making those doors at some point in between sobbing. That's going to happen at some point.
Yeah, I think those are part of the doors, but I don't think he'll finish them. I think it'll be his apprentice that will have that.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And
But
then Celebrimbor falls for the oldest trick in the book. So he decides to go out and meet Halbrand at the gate. And then he's like, "No, I've been told not to deal with you." And Celebrimbor, and then Halbrand's like, "Oh, all right. I'll just tell Galadriel then. I'm just gonna have a word with." And he's like, "Oh, you've spoken to Galadriel?" And he's like, "Well, yes. Did she not tell you?" And he's being so and he just gets suckered in straight away. I'm like, "Come on!" He's trying the oldest trick in the book here, and he's got you instantly. Like,
I thought it was a poor show of how he's trying to be manipulating, because you have, for some reason, right? This is a guy who shouldn't be allowed into the realm, and they let him in because he's cold. Because the apprentice is like, "Oh, it's raining outside."
I think she says he's injured as well because he's got that like scratch on his or brand on his back, hasn't he?
And it's like trying to make him feel sympathetic. And then you see Celebrimbor with his ridiculous umbrella. He's just a walking joke.
Yeah, I know.
And this guy's meant to be one of the major players. And like what you said, so he finally threatens to kick him out by force.
Yeah.
Like he shouldn't be having any dealings with him. But as soon as Halbrand brings up Galadriel, he's like, straight away, he's like hooked. And then they mention the rings, and that's all he's cared about is, "Oh, have the rings worked?" It's like, what? Like, and again, it raises the question of why the hell did she not tell him that Halbrand's Sauron? Again, it doesn't make sense because she's already told him not to let him in. And he's just such a poor interpretation of Celebrimbor. Really awful.
Yeah, GC says he's a joke. He's the dumbest elf in Middle Earth. And this scene kind of cemented it for me because I mean, he lets him in, so immediately he betrays his mandate, and it was so easy to do so.
Yeah.
There wasn't like any clever wordplay or manipulation or really getting like under his skin or anything like that. It was just so easy. And then he's asking about the rings. He's like, "Tell me, did the rings work?" And Halbrand's like, "Oh, they worked wonders." And then he starts fucking crying, and Halbrand even calls him out on it. He's like, "Are you weeping?" I actually really laughed at that.
Oh,
he's like, "No, I'm just relieved." I'm like, "No, you were weeping, mate. It's fucking pathetic. What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, but you don't know how long I've wanted to craft something with meaning." I'm like, "You're Celebrimbor, mate, descendant of Feanor. You are you're meant to be the greatest smith, one of the greatest crafters in all of Middle Earth. And you're telling me that, he can't make anything of worth until now with the rings. I know the rings are like his main accomplishment, but in the lore, he is the greatest smith for a reason. He can produce quality shit before this point. And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to open a bottle of first age wine. You don't know how long I've waited for this day." I thought, go on, drop the line. They didn't, but I thought it was going to be like 1296, very good year, almost as old as I am.
Oh, there's one line of dialogue that had me laughing.
Go on.
It's of Halbrand. So they're talking over in Celebrimbor's parlor, it looks like, and he's talking about the rings and how it's working, how they're working, sorry, and Celebrimbor cries with joy like what you said, which was so poor. It was just awful. But then Sauron just randomly asks Celebrimbor, he says, "Are we friends?"
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah.
And then Celebrimbor straight away is like, "Yes, of course." Like, what?
Yeah.
And this is meant to be showing him
friend,
manipulating. Oh, football friends. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Absolutely awful. And this is him
Carry on,
manipulating
mate. I'm just going to get some tissue. You hold the fort for a while, okay? Just tell everyone how it's a terrible, awful scene, please.
Yeah, because Sauron is meant to be this master manipulator, deceiver. All he's got to do is let Celebrimbor talk, and that's it. His job's done. And he doesn't come across as a commanding presence. He doesn't, because his ways of manipulating, he does it so overtly that it's laughable. You can't, like, when he's saying, like, oh, Gilgalad doesn't really trust you. Like, he's saying that straight away. He should be gaining his trust and then dropping these lines. Not straight away, oh, well, Gilgalad's doing this. And, they rushed it, I think. And this is the problem that they've got, is that in the first season, they blowed their load because
Yeah.
they already used up the storyline of them being deceived by a stranger coming into Eregion. They've already used that storyline, so they're rehashing it again and trying to make it work, and they're falling into these same problems. It's awful, but
He's straight in as well, isn't he? He's like, "Oh, I need you to make
yeah,
some rings for men." I'm like, "Whoa, hang, like,
hold
easy does
on.
it. Subtlety, Sauron, subtlety. You don't barrel straight in with that. You gain his trust first over a long period of time."
100%. And then he just decides he wants to confess everything for some reason. He's
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, I have a confession. I'm actually an envoy from a higher power.
a messenger of the
And
Valar, I believe he says. Yeah,
yes. And they want to work together to create these rings. And boy, we get one of the worst shots I've ever seen in the on tally.
have
The
you got time to
Messiah
talk about your
himself.
Lord and Savior Anatar, the Lord of Gifts?
Absolutely awful. Just look at him. Look at the state.
Let's bring that up again. Let's do it. So
Look
interesting
at
thing,
that.
right? I was trying to find the image of this on Google to create the thumbnail for this, and I found one image, but it was really tiny. And you know how you can do this thing? I think it's like with Google Lens, you can search the image across the internet to find all references of that. So I did that on that image, and there were so many pictures of Jesus Christ in like the same like cloud pose and the same lighting, and I was like, yeah. So even Google thinks that I was trying to find a picture of Jesus. So
Yeah, I mean, I expected like the little archangels popping out.
yeah,
It's just
it's either that or
so.
like the fucking Columbia logo was gonna like show up like out of the clouds or something. Yeah, it was a total tonight, Matthew. I'm gonna be like he went up them stairs through that fog and then yeah, came out as Anatar, Lord of Gifts,
And
and I'm like,
he even said the Lord of the Rings
yeah, oh
straight
god,
away.
he said it. He said the thing.
Yeah, he said the name, and you've got Celebrimbor there just in awe, just staring, gawping.
Gets on his knees and he's like, "No,
Yeah.
you bow to no one," or something like that.
Oh, but you look at, so we already saw that he's going to be like this from the trailers, but I didn't expect that reveal. And my God, I'm looking at the comments. Amazing. This is true cinema. Wow, that blew me away. What the hell are you watching? It's
It's
awful.
exactly like Ahsoka. So in episode 5, did you watch Ahsoka?
I saw bits of it. I kind of zoned out after it just kind of got messy, and I was like, yeah, I'm not watching that.
Yeah. I don't blame it. So episode 5, she goes to the world between worlds and has like a weird spectral vision of Anakin, and it's like, is Anakin actually there? Or is she just imagining all this? But there's a moment like Anakin walks up to her and he's like about to fight her and like fucking murder her. And for a flash, like a second, he turns into Vader with a red lightsaber and then he flashes back to Anakin. And people are losing their shit going, oh my God, yeah, like this is cinema. He just Vadered. He Vadered. Oh my God, Anakin with a red lightsaber. Ah, just going nuts. I'm like, this is horse shit. This is terror. It's so basic. Like, why? It's so simplistic. But, something. if some people got a kick out of it, fair enough. But yeah, I remember you showed me some comments going like, I've always wanted to see Anatar, Lord of Gifts, and to show him as like a Christ-like figure made me literally have chills on my arms. I'm like, okay, whatever gets your
Yeah.
rocks off, if it does it for you, it does it for you. It didn't do it for me. It didn't do it for me.
No, it was awful. I mean, would it slightly have been better if they got a different actor in?
This is it.
I mean,
Yeah.
it
Yes.
makes it slightly better, but the shot is still awful. But
He looks so awkward. The actor looks so awkward in this wig and this
yeah,
makeup.
yeah, like he looks like he's missing a few chromosomes. That's putting it lightly.
So he's got some like
Awful.
foundation on now, and it looks like he's had like a little bit of a lift.
Yeah,
But
like
Charlie Vickers plays that. Like I could imagine him playing like a Jon Snow character. He's got the northern accent. He's a bit rugged and a bit rough around the edges and stuff like that. He fits that kind of Jon Snow like character, and his delivery and the way that he talks. I don't know if that is his real accent, if he is a northerner, or if he puts it on for Halbrand. But he just looks so weird and uncomfortable as Anatar. And we said like this would be your perfect. We've already established in episode 1 that Sauron's a shapeshifter, so this would be a perfect opportunity for us to see a different actor playing him, and also an in-universe reason as to why Sauron has to change his appearance, because the cat's out of the bag, and at this point, Celebrimbor's completely clueless. He's just like, oh, I'm a messenger of the Valar, and this is actually my real form. Change the actor, change his face, change it to someone else. It will make sense.
yeah,
But like many
100%.
things, nothing makes sense in this show.
I
Yeah,
am
go on,
very
sorry.
curious to see if any of the old gang meet up and see Halbrand or Anatar Halbrand like this and recognize him, or will they just believe it is Anatar
Oh
and
God,
Nubian?
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, they're gonna do like a Clark Kent thing.
Yeah, because they have a fight scene, and I think at that point they pretty much know that it is Sauron. But I'll be
If
curious to see if a
yeah,
conversation goes down.
if they do that, I will have lost any shred of credibility I might have given this show at any point, any benefit of the doubt. If they do that, where he's quite clearly
Hmm.
still Halbrand in a wig, and they're like, "Hey, have you seen Halbrand around here?" Like, I'm done. I'm fucking done if they do that. If Galadriel sees him and just goes, "There's something about you that seems eerily familiar," I'm done. I'm so done.
Oh
I have a feeling they
well,
might.
I don't have much faith in the show, but hopefully they
Yeah,
don't do that.
yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, we do have a fight scene between Sauron and Galadriel to look forward to. So I
The
can't wait.
only Oh, I know. That's going to be the finale, isn't it? That's going to be your big season finale. The only other two notes I have on the rest of this episode is Elrond is tasked to lead Galadriel, and Celeborn invites the dwarves to Eregion with a proposition.
Yeah, so I mean, again, performance-wise, when when she finds out that she's allowed to do the mission, but Alron's the one that's going to be in charge of it, even though he should be in prison at this point. But hey ho, they gave him one of the most crucial missions going. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's your reward for disobeying. Um, I couldn't tell from her reaction if she's happy, angry, sad that he's leading. I didn't know what she was thinking. Yeah, literally
yeah.
blanked face. I didn't know.
It's like
I mean,
angry,
do you know
happy,
what did you
sorrowful.
get? What did you get
I
from
got
it?
I got that she was a bit pissed off by this. But that's just Morfydd Clark. She's just in a constant state of anger and bitterness and contempt and hatred for everything. So
Hmm,
that was my read on the scene. I don't think she's okay with this. I don't think that she likes being told what to do by a man. I think she likes to be strong and independent and willful, and she doesn't like that she's being sort of curtailed at this point and kept on a
hmm.
leash. That's how I read into it.
Well, let's see how long that lasts with them.
Mhm.
I mean, at some point they split off, as
Yeah.
you've seen in the trailers. So how long will that last for? I don't know. And really looking forward to seeing Disa and Prince Durin with Celebrimbor.
God.
Yay! I can't wait for that scene.
Well,
Oh,
I think that's a good segue to take us on to episode 3. Now, I know we've been talking for an hour and 35 on episode 2. Honestly, episode 3, I don't have many notes on this. I really don't. At this point, I was tapped the fuck out and I was passively watching scenes. Scenes were happening, and then I'd question why they happened. Why is Isildur fighting spiders? Why did we really need that? What point does that serve? My first note of episode 3. So, episode 3 is The Eagle and the Scepter. Is Waldrig is in the previously on. I'm like, yes. So yes, it's a previous scene, but we get our boy back, and
we got him.
Oh, good times back in episode 1. So Isildur's horse. So we cut to Elendil, and this is after all the battle. Honestly, I can't fucking remember what happened at the end. I thought they all went back to Numenor, but shows how much I remember. Elendil's hanging around, and he believes that Isildur's dead, and he's trying to rein in Isildur's horse, and the horse won't obey. And I was like, oh, this just reminded me of another scene from an extended edition in Two Towers.
Yeah.
And they turn the horse away, and it goes riding off in search of its master. And I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember this in Two Towers. I was right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we have now. They didn't actually say it was Shelob, did we? I don't think they're probably going to do any other spider things in there. So was
No.
it meant to just be spiders, just in the area near
That
Mordor?
that was Shelob who we fought.
Oh, that actually was Shelob.
That was Shelob confirmed.
Wow. Well, that was fucking underwhelming.
And I had in my notes that Isildur struggled with
Yeah.
a baby. Bearing in mind she's meant to be fully grown at this point and has nothing to do with this storyline.
Uh-huh.
But like with a lot of Rings of Power, canon doesn't exist, lore doesn't exist.
Mm,
So he struggled with a baby Shelob, yet Sam took on the whole thing,
damn right.
like and battered her, beat her up. So
Yeah, because Isildur's like a man grown, and there's this tiny, well, I would say tiny spider. It's big, but I mean tiny in comparison to fully grown Shelob, what we see. And he's kind of doing what Sam does, where he like grabs a hold of the pincers. And I'm like, I'm sorry, how that spider look? You could snap those off in an instant. It really looked like he could just tear that thing apart if he wanted to, if he got like a good grasp on it.
yeah,
I mean, even hell,
well,
even the dwarfs in the Hobbit. Do you remember when they all each grab a leg and pull, and
yeah,
they like pull all the legs off? Like they batter the spiders as well, and they're dwarves, and those
yeah.
spiders were much bigger as well. This is a baby. What are we doing?
But that is Shelob. It's
Ugh.
amazing, isn't it? That who would have
I
thought
thought
a
they would make a
Isildur?
bigger deal of it being Sheila. Like, I don't know if it was like they get a name drop in there. I don't know how they'd get a name drop, but I thought they'd build up to it more and make it a bit more obvious that it's Sheila. Because how it played to me, it was just a spider. But yeah, if
Yeah,
the cast and crew have said that it's Sheila, I guess it's Shelob.
yeah. The writers have confirmed that it's Shelob, um, which is fucking bizarre that Isildur is fighting Shelob
But it was a pointless
in your
scene.
Rings of
There was no
Power.
need for it.
Did it
Really, was there?
achieve
Because like, what
anything?
happens after this? He gets sort of accosted by brigands on the road. But the spider fight didn't really have any ramifications. He didn't sort of collect any item that helps him on his way. He didn't discover anything about himself. It didn't sort of lead him to the next point. It was just a random encounter that you could just easily edit out and nothing changes. Unless I missed
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
but there was something I wanted to talk to you about a minute ago. That was just before this scene. So we have Isildur's horse, which is called Beric, I believe.
Yeah.
So it runs free, and then it bumps into a bunch of orcs. Now, one of these orcs is meant to be a good orc. Is meant to be because we see him later on in the episode.
The family man
I'm
orc.
not going to mention, the family man, the one with an orc baby, which Jesus Christ. When I
Do we
saw this,
really
I
have
didn't
to go
clock
to
onto
war,
it first.
father? When will this
What?
war
What do you
end?
mean?
Will someone think
It's
of their
like,
children?
yeah, I don't want to go to war. What was he doing during the last season? And he went to attack the horse. Like, what's he doing? You can't go with this old pacifist orc with him with it, like an
I'm
axe
imagining that
wandering around.
scene.
It doesn't work.
I'm imagining that scene from Two Towers, you know, when it's that really emotional slow motion scene where they're preparing for the Battle of Helm's Deep and all the men are sort of having to go to war and they're having to take away the firstborn sons as well. And all the women are weeping and crying, but just replace them all with orcs.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like, Morgoth has made these like
Yeah,
orcs that
yeah.
are so caring.
And he's
And it's
hugging his
like
wife and
family
he's
man.
like cradling his baby. Okay, now it's ridiculous and it's awful and it's ham-fisted and it kind of breaks the law. However, I will say in The Hobbit and in the Greater Law, Azog does have a son, Bolg. So,
Yes.
orc children, in some way, shape, or form, are legit. Now, the question is, are they birthed out of mud and evil magic? And he was just like, I shall call him Mini-Me and he shall be my son. Or is he actually from Azog's pipes, which is gross to think about, but you know what I mean? So if it is actually his son, which I think it probably is, then orc children are legit, but I just don't see them being a compassionate, loving family man like the one depicted in this show. That was weird. And it's humanizing the orcs,
Yeah.
and they're meant to be completely inhuman. That's the whole point of them.
Again, it's how can we be different? Oh, let's have a family man orc.
Yeah.
You know, we see him being gentle towards the horse, even though he tries to capture it. But he's like, "Oh, let him go." And then we get the later scenes. So I just found that just interesting and quite funny.
I was
But
reading some comments earlier that were really
yeah,
funny, and it was like, what news from Mordor, my lord? What does the eye command? We have families to build. Like,
I've got family. It's like the Fast and Furious meme. It's just the orc. I got family. Jesus. I love how he brings this up to Adar. Like, just
yeah,
randomly he's like, hey, war is bad.
yeah. What the fuck?
Where the hell are you on this campaign then?
Yeah,
Like,
GT says, what's the point of showing a baby orc? Make orcs sympathetic. Yeah, it's this modern 2024 contrarian, nothing's wholly good or evil, everything's morally grey. We've got to show sympathy to the evils. Star Wars The Acolyte, the
yeah.
whole morality of that show was to say that the Sith are the good guys. The fucking murderers and evil people are actually the good guys, and it's the Jedi who are the evil ones and the corrupt ones and everything like that. And it was so sadistic. It was such a horrible, skewed way of viewing like that story and the morality of those characters, what they actually do. And they're doing the same with this one. They're trying to humanize the orcs and go, oh, see, the orcs aren't all that bad. And then you just cut to Two Towers. It's like, looks like meat's back on the menu, boys. And this one, it's, will it really come to war, father? We do not have the strength to repel the forces of the elves and the men. It's, oh, God. Tolkien's revolving in his grave at this point. I'm just going to carry on to the next scene. So, some of the comments here actually. Tar Elenian says, Isildur failing to kill Shelob means it is his fault that Frodo and Sam have to face Shelob. Oh no, he didn't destroy the ring, and now he didn't kill Shelob. He's not doing very well, is he, Isildur? And then Tarlanian also says, Gollum, only a few hours ago he had worn it and caught a small goblin imp. How it squeaked. He still had a bone or two left to gnaw, but he wanted something softer. Yeah, so, I mean, goblins come in all shapes and sizes, don't they? But I think, like the whole Azog and Bolg thing. Is that the only reference to orc children? Bolg of the North being the son of Azog? And
As far
GT
as I
says,
know,
"Who's
yeah.
the villain in this story? I find Gil-galad and Galadriel more evil than Sauron." I actually will not disagree with you with that. Yeah, we're meant to
Can't
sympathize with. At
complain.
least that's how I inferred it. Where he wanted the crown and he was betrayed by his own people, and he's gone from riches to rags, and he's trying to find his way in the world. Yeah, it was painting Sauron in a very sympathetic light. I found in episode 1.
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, you look at Galadriel's whereabouts and what she's been doing. I mean, she's basically causing all the problems for season 2 so far. So she is the villain.
Yep. And Tara Lenian puts this beautifully, quoting Tolkien as always. And thus did Melkor breed the hideous race of the orcs, in envy and mockery of the elves, of whom they were afterwards the bitterest foes. For the orcs had life and multiplied after the manner of the children of Ilúvatar. Yeah.
Yeah,
My
well,
next
you're
note
wrong.
is. Oh, God, sorry.
Well, they're wrong because orcs have families. So
Yeah. My next note's in Numenor, where Miriel gets slapped upside the head. Which she slapped a blind woman. Like, how low do you have to stoop?
mate, the scenes with Stevie Wonder over there has been absolutely laughable. The fact that she does the comically, like, when you're searching around in the dark at night time and you
Yeah.
can't see, you're trying to find the light switch. She's just throwing hands around.
It's like, my glasses. I can't find
It's
my
like
glasses.
you made a big issue in season 1 pretending not to be blind in front of people because it made you look weak. She even said that.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, she's like throwing hands around, trying to reach out for everything. Like, what? Because
Yeah.
she's just staring into the distance. Her eyes aren't moving. She's just blank staring. And so they're paying their respects, aren't they? Elendil and his daughter,
Yeah.
who they did say the name, but I've forgotten
Yeah,
again.
I forgot. A-R. It was like the E with like the two dots over it. It was like A-R Leon. Yeah, I've forgotten it already. Sorry.
Wow, she's got a big role in the fall of Numenor. So
Yes. Yes.
this big character who no one knows anything about. So they're paying the respect, and she kind of brings it up to Isildur, to Elendil, sorry, that it's the Queen's fault that all of this happened.
Yeah.
Everyone is speaking treason openly nowadays in Rings of Power. Everyone's just speaking it out. And she kind of blames Elendil as well for what happened with Isildur. And I'm like, you weren't even there. Like,
Yeah.
what are you
Yeah.
on about? So then, as far as I remember, Miriel walks in then with Ar-Pharazôn, and so she's permanently blind now.
Mhm.
And they explain that she was blind trying to save people from the what was it now, the furnace
Yeah.
that insured the town. So they're talking, and then she just goes and gets slapped.
I know.
Like, her gods are rubbish. The gods aren't even protecting her. You're meant to, stand in front of them and let them pass or let them talk at a distance. No, they just let her straight up slap her, and instead of arresting her straight away, Muriel's like, "No, I'm just going to give her a hug." And I
Yeah.
love how that's like, okay, I've given you a hug now. Forgive me for the disaster what I caused in the previous season.
It's
Like,
just
it's
this
her
this
fault.
this woman, bold as brass, just slaps the shit out of a blind woman. I was like, oh my God.
We're going. It's like balls to it. We're going full out.
But yeah, I guess there's like a power vacuum, isn't there? Because the king's dead and she's the queen regent, but then there's now unrest in Numenor. And this would actually be really compelling stuff if it could be written really well. And even this just feels so rushed. Like how, I know I'm skipping right to the end now, but how Ar-Pharazôn kind of ascends to the throne or will ascend to the throne very soon after this. I'm like, this is, well, number one, this is absolutely not how it went down in the book at all. Goes without saying, it's the Rings of Power. But it feels really, really rushed. And even earlier when they're talking about doing, oh yeah, the 9 rings for men and the 7 for dwarves, and we're getting to like this Ar-Pharazôn stuff, I'm like, you do realize you want to try and milk 5 seasons out of this, because you're breezing through this pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much, Numenor's in chaos already.
Yeah,
In was it 3rd episode in?
yeah,
And I love how they're just openly again just shouting out insults.
yeah.
But she shouldn't be queen at this point. She's caused an absolute catastrophe to Numenor. Like how many lives that she's wasted, and it's amazing that she's still alive after facing a volcano, a volcanic eruption. So
Is it at this point where they reveal the Palantir? Is that towards the end of
no,
the episode?
that's at the end.
Right,
That's at the
right.
end. So the next scene after this is they're in the king's tower,
Yeah.
and she's looking over the old possessions of the king, and she finds a key. And Ar-Pharazôn walks in, and they're talking about how he lost his father, and so he's basically trying to butter her up, and then they have this weird scene where she hides it from him, and then he's just like, what you how what have you got in your hand behind your back? And she's like, oh, he's like, oh, what is it? Show me. And she stands up, and it's like, oh, it's nothing. Okay, right. We just spent like a minute on that, and then he gives her a choice whether to wear a black dress, a white dress, sorry, or a red dress.
Mm.
And she keeps on saying, oh, I want to wear a white dress. And he's like, no. Are you sure about that? And you just spend like a minute again of them just saying, no, I want to wear a white dress.
Mm.
It's meant to be showing like, oh, he's given her a choice, join me or, go out alone. And you
Yeah.
see it later on that he's wearing the red clothing and she's in the white. But they mentioned that they're cousins, and I don't know about you. I'd like to see Ar-Pharazôn's wife or
Yeah, I
the
know.
connections. But yeah, it's a bit of a nothing scene, to be honest. It's sowing seeds for later on, and we see it all kicking off.
Mhm.
Again, what do you think actually of the actor who plays Ar-Pharazôn? Do you think he's a good Ar-Pharazôn, or
I think he could be. Even now, I still don't feel like I've seen enough of his character to really judge. The Ar-Pharazôn I know is like the completely crazed, like dictatorial, megalomaniacal maniac. When we get to the stuff where he marches all of his troops to Mordor and arrests Sauron and brings him back, and you have that altercation with him and Sauron. Like that is the really interesting stuff for me. I ain't gonna say he's like a bad actor. I'm just kind of indifferent towards him. I don't think he really commands the presence that I imagine Ar-Pharazôn to have when I read the book. But
yeah?
I wouldn't say
I
he's
mean, just,
awful. I'm just sort of completely indifferent towards him, at all honesty, at this point.
I agree. I mean, we've not really seen much of him, and he's meant to be one of the big game players.
Yeah.
We barely see anything.
Hmm.
But he's not one of the weakest points. I thought he was all right. To be fair,
Yeah.
he from what I saw, it was better than season 1 version of him. I thought he was pretty poor in that. But I think the seeds have already been sown, hasn't it, for his role in this season.
Mm.
But God, I can't stand the actor who plays his son.
Oh, yeah, he winds me up.
Oh,
Yeah, so
I've
sniveling.
completely I've forgotten his name, but the name in the Amazon credits was funny. If you could find it, it's so stupid. It's like,
Ar-Pharazôn's son, isn't it?
yeah,
Hang on, I'm trying to see if I can find like a really stupid fucking name. Uh, it's not Kemen, is it? Kemen?
yes,
Is it?
Yeah, Kemen.
I was scanning through all the names. I was like, let me find a really stupid name. I was like, well, Kevin's pretty stupid. Let's go with that one. Here's where we have someone comment who goes like, actually, my name's Kemen, and I take great offense to you ridiculing that name. So GT in the comments says, Muriel is a bad queen. She sent untrained buffoons to fight alongside a crazy elf for no logical reason. Not to mention, she sent untrained buffoons in record time to fight alongside a crazy elf lady. After the crazy elf lady was an absolute dick to her when they first got there, shouting, mouthing the odds as Galadriel is wont to do. It was Halbrand, actually, I think, sort of like quelled the whole situation. The next scene I have written down is Damrod, the hill troll. That is, he's got loads of titles. It reminds me of like Apollo Creed from Rocky, where he's like the master of disaster, the something, how boxers all have, I've forgotten all the names that Apollo Creed has now. And I call myself a Rocky fan. It just reminded me of that. He was like the eater of, we have lost everything in Middle Earth. Okay. I guess maybe he might join back. Let me just see if he's dropped me a text. He's just said that his internet's gone, but he's going to try and get it back. So hopefully he can jump back in a second. I'll just keep it moving. Damrod the Hill Troll. He snacks on dragon bones. He has done other things. It was a whole laundry list of stuff. This is the troll that they're really marketing. This, I think they even said they're marketing. They're basing the design on the troll on Mike's character from Breaking Bad. And I mentioned this before. The whole Breaking Bad thing seems to be a running theme with the writers, or at least they think it is in their own mind, because they compared Sauron to Gus's character for season 1, and then they said they've created a troll character based on the appearance of Mike. And I thought, I wonder what the actor thinks of that, if he's heard of that, because that's a bit of a slight against him, isn't it? Anyway, this is our big bad troll, and he's got his own death metal song as his soundtrack. And I'm sorry, it just sounds so out of place. I think it's written in black speech, so I guess, that's in keeping, but the instrumentation and the voice, and it's like, you're just expecting the guitars to come in like, like, I'm like, this isn't fucking Slipknot, this isn't some thrash metal gig or death metal gig or whatever it is. It's just, I think it's a really terrible idea to have that soundtrack, especially because you haven't had anything like that in the rest of the show. Oh, hang on.
I'm back.
He's back. Talking about Damrod and his accompanying death metal song.
Did you read out the titles that he had?
I was trying to remember them. I know there's the eater of dragon bones, or the guy who snacks on dragon bones or something. Have you got them written down?
So he was like he was the eater of dragon bones, and then
the killer of stone giants was one of them, I think.
Yeah, the killer of stone giants. How the hell is he doing that? Have you seen him?
If it's in universe of the Hobbit films, then yes, ain't no way in hell that's happening. But
no way. I mean,
if stone giants are like trolls, like they are maybe in the book, a lot more smaller scale than the Hobbit movies, then maybe. But it depends if these fit in continuity with the films.
Yeah, I do love how he just like walks straight in. You hear his ballad going off, the Ballad of Damrod. Sorry. And you predicted that, didn't you? That it'll probably be during that scene that you hear his music, the heavy metal. But again, why are we introducing a character which is probably going to get killed off at the end of the season?
Oh yeah.
Why?
You've got your predictions with that, haven't you? About how he's going to meet his fate.
Have you talked about the scene in the new Menorian tavern?
No, I haven't.
So there's more talk of treason. So I think it's between Ar-Pharazôn and so it's Ar-Pharazôn, like Kermit, is it? Kermit the Frog, whatever his son's called.
It's Kemen.
Kemen, yeah, that's the one. So him, Isildur's sister, and a noble. So they're talking about how weak Muriel is again, and how Ar-Pharazôn's so much better than her. And then Isildur's sister's fully on board straight away and suggests that they should recruit more members. Bearing in mind, this is like in a tavern, you know, anyone could be listening. They just don't care. There's no subtlety. There's no secretness about it. It's like, okay, let's talk treason.
Yeah.
And then, if you forgot, do you remember Isildur's mate, who somehow is it the
New Zealander
captain?
guy, right? He kind of looks like a Kiwi.
Yeah, who somehow's a captain now just because he cut Galadriel's cloth. Like he meets up with them, notices Isildur's sister, and then starts to call them out for being treasonous. And then Ar-Pharazôn's son stands up, tries to threaten him, and he's so weak. Like as a person, he's not intimidating at all. And I don't know if that's how the show is trying to portray it or not. But the acting's shocking, and Ar-Pharazôn just doesn't stick up for him. So they have an argument, and then Isildur's mate threatens to hit him. And he also mentions that Muriel saved people during the fiery inferno. And you just think back to that scene where they all survived the Mordor exploding. And they call back to these lines. I was thinking, surely the show would try to forget that. Seems though it's a major flaw of the season. But no, they're fully going into it. And so Muriel's meant to be this amazing queen despite killing fucking, I don't know how many Númenóreans she killed, but
a lot.
It was her fault.
Yeah.
And yeah, oh, absolutely awful. Absolutely dross.
I do want to see Kemen get his comeuppance though. He's got just, I guess he's like the Joffrey of this series or something, you know. You just want to see him just get his comeuppance at some point. So let's see. I've just got Celebrimbor and dwarves. That's all I wrote down. As I say, like my notes got very small at this point. I think at this point they're saying, you know, oh, we need some mithril to create these rings. They're going to help you out. And I think Durin's actually kind of backing the idea, isn't he? If I remember rightly.
Yeah. No.
Oh, no. I totally watched this wrong. I was tuning out.
So I think they're all on board at the beginning, but Durin doesn't trust Anatar. And Anatar's kind of been a little bit more forceful with the conversation. So Durin says, oh, we need a bit of time to talk about this. And Celebrimbor's like, yeah, you can do that. But Anatar's trying to push the agenda. So Durin doesn't trust Anatar. But Dissa's the one, and this is what shocked me, is Dissa's the one that's pushing the agenda. He keeps on saying, she keeps on saying, oh, you know, this might be a good thing. We need to tell King Durin about this. And he's like, oh, I don't really trust it. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bit of a nothing scene. I didn't really think anything stood out as being wrong.
Well, my prediction's that Disa is going to get a hold of one of the Rings of Power, the Dwarven Rings of Power, by the end of this series.
No,
that's my prediction. Yeah.
Oh, you can see it as well.
I think something bad's going to befall during the third. I don't think during the third makes it out the end of this series, but I think the ring is, maybe they'll say like, oh, the ring has been lost, but actually Disa keeps it for herself. And covets it. That's my prediction anyway.
Oh man, could you imagine?
I think she fancies herself a dwarf lord. So yeah,
because she's like openly talking about treason as well and sowing the seeds. So I can see that.
Mhm.
to be honest, and I can't see Durin doing
No.
anything about it. So that's another thing as well that they established in this meeting. So they want the mithril from Moria, and that's how it's gonna tie in together.
Yeah.
And that's when I think we see towards the end that the King Durin brings mithril there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I thought it was an okay scene. I mean, Durin again was one of the better parts of season one, and he's been okay so far. I really
So
do like the actor, to
I
be
was going to
honest.
say I'm jumping ahead to my positive for this episode, and this is a little bit later where he apologizes to his father. I've put the Prince Durin actor. I can't remember his name. Sorry, is really trying. Like he was probably my favorite character in series one, despite some really funny lines that he had about "Give me the meat and give it to me raw." But you can see scenes like this, like the seeds of moments where it's like, if we had great writing and we stayed true to the source material, I'd be fine with these actors. Well, some of these actors in some of these roles, and Durin's one of them because I think he is really trying, despite the material he's got to work with. And when he's getting emotional, when he's saying that, oh, I'm stubborn and I'm this and I'm that, and it was wrong of me to disrespect you, father. I was like, there's a glimmer of hope here with some of this stuff. Um, and I actually really like the actors who they have for both the Dorins. I think they're both pretty good, to be honest. So there you go. There's my positive for episode 3. I can have positives.
See, and people say you were negative.
I know.
Come
I know.
on. I'd really love if people are tuning into this video now, or the people who are after positive reviews, and they hear that clip and they're like, "Oh yes, I can go on board with this," and then they hear the rest of what you've got to say. It's like, oh
Oh no,
no,
they'll just choose to skip that point and they'll just hear me being negative, which percentage wise it is probably like 99.999% negative. But there are moments every now and then I will give positives where positives are due. Tara
yes,
Lillian, quite rightly, Durin the Third dies by fighting the Balrog. Well, we know the Balrog is there, and we are going to get the Balrog, but they've
yeah,
kind of just fucked with the timeline because we've got Durin the Fourth, and the whole essence of the Durin lineage, as far as I'm aware from the book, is that it's almost like a reincarnation. The dwarves believe in the spirit of Durin all the way back from Durin the First, and that Durin will always reveal himself at some point. I think it caps off with Durin the Seventh, doesn't it? Is that it's not Stonehelm? Stone is it uh Dane Ironfoot's son, Stonehelm the Third, or whatever it is? Is does he turn out to be Durin the Seventh in the end? I can't remember. But my next note is Isildur's journey. We get this whole
oh,
side of things, and we get a call back to the Dead Marshes.
yes,
Very nice of them. And he comes across a young woman named Estrid, who is
hmm.
terrible so far. Like she's really, really bad, and she's hiding a brand from Adar. And I think she tries to conceal it later, doesn't she? She tries to like brand the brand off, and she just goes like, eh. It's like like if you put a brand on your skin, it's gonna fucking hurt. You'll know about it. You're gonna shout out with that, and yeah, it's just like she stubbed her toe a little bit, like oh, ooh.
Did you know that in the show is going to be Isildur's wife?
Oh really?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't
yeah.
know that. No.
You know what I loved about that scene as well? And I thought exactly the same. We got a dead Marshes callback. I was thinking at first, I was thinking, you've not done it because you're way too early for it. You can't have a dead Marshes. But then
Of course,
they,
it's the Last Alliance, isn't it? It's the bodies are
yeah,
from the Last Alliance. Oh fuck yeah! Yeah.
because I was thinking at first,
Shit.
why the hell have they done that? But then it's like, okay, it because it looked like they were under frozen water, so it looked like the
Yeah.
bodies froze. So I was like, okay, you've called it back, but it's not a callback. Um,
Yeah.
but then he's wandering through the woods, and you see these dead Numenorian soldiers, and then all of a sudden, this she jumps out, and then hits his leg, and then all of a sudden he's not bleeding out.
Mm.
He's just, and it was in a bad place as well where she got him.
Yeah.
And what was his reaction? He didn't even cry out in pain. It's just like, oh, it's okay. It's like you just hit him pretty badly. He should be, and it was near an artery as well.
Yeah.
Arteries. So, and the acting was so clunky during that scene. It's like, oh, if I hit you, it's like, oh no, oh, I thought you were an orc. What? Open your eyes. It's in broad daylight. It's not at night time. Where you could think, oh, okay, your vision's impaired. It's like, no, it's in broad daylight. Absolutely awful. And yeah, it's a great way to introduce the character who I don't get why she's been hiding there because, and I don't know how long she's been hiding there for, because they already said that she already tried to look for Isildur, Elendil's people, and saw that they'd left. So she'd already been wandering. So I don't get why she was just back there. They don't explain it. But we have their romance brewing. So you'll get to see that, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy that for future episodes.
Well, Tyrellenian says, if that is the case, the wife thing, that is more law-breaking. Isildur would have married a Númenorian woman. Yeah, it's funny how things work out in this show, isn't it? We don't always get what we want. I think it's around about this time as well that the wild men spring out and try and steal his horse, if I remember rightly. And they're saved by this show's version of Legolas. What was it? Arondir. That's it. Who does his little cart jump out of the cart, his little 360 spin.
Oh, was this how we reveal him for this season? I completely forgot. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And he saves them all, doesn't he? He pops out and he saves them all. And then I love this so much, by the way. Fair play to the actress, and I wish her nothing but the best. Bronwyn got the fuck out of this show. She got out while the getting was good. And there's even a little bit of a line. It's totally a retcon. It's so bullshit. They said, I thought she was getting better, but what is it? But there is evil yet in orc arrows that elvish medicine cannot mend, or something like that. I'm like, bullshit. But I'm so glad that she got out of the show.
100%. You look at the end of season 1, she's fit and ready.
Yeah.
And then all 100%. Of a sudden, she's gone, you know what? I don't want to be in the show anymore. And then, yeah, she's kicked the bucket.
They didn't even they could. I feel like they could have recast her, maybe, if they still wanted a character around. I'm actually surprised they didn't, because it's another strong, independent woman they could have in the show. We've got to have that steaming hot romance of mortal and elf kind, which they were sort of teeing up throughout season 1. It's just like, oh no, just kill her off. She took a turn for the worst and died.
Yeah, and I love how she's got this massive funeral going on, because don't forget it, she led the defense of the town, which if it wasn't for the Númenorians, they would have been all destroyed, because she decided to choose the open plain where houses are to stand her ground instead of the was it like a castle? What she
feels like a tower, like a turret or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, she decided to abandon that and just go for a bunch of houses.
Jesus.
But yeah, so she's passed, and I think you're pretty gutted about that one. Oh. But we got to see Theo again.
We did.
Yes, I mean,
considerably aged up since series 1, but I know that's how aging works, even though this is meant to be taking place directly after. And he really fucking hates Arondir right now and blames him.
Yes, he's racist.
Yes,
to be honest. he hates him, and again, they keep playing on it with this character about his father. Who is his father? Who's it going to be? And it's obviously going to be Arondir.
Yeah.
Like, it must be. They keep playing on that so hard. Who else could it be?
Yeah.
It's not going to be Waldrig.
It's going to remind... You've seen the first Austin Powers movie, right?
Yeah.
That bit where he's like, "I love you, Dad. I love you too, son." Like, we're gonna have that moment.
I mean, I'm sure you can't wait for them to reveal who his father is. That's his main plot for the show.
Bronwyn never
And
told you what happened to your father.
it's
I
like,
am
why?
your
I would love to know who it is. Maybe it was the true king of the Southlands was their
father.
father. Who knows? But he hates Arendira apparently, and he loves Isildur.
Yeah, he agrees to go and get his horsey back, doesn't he? I think.
Yeah, because I think is it Estrid
Yeah.
so him and Isildur are talking, and he's talking about how he's a changed man, and this is something that I wanted to check. I couldn't remember if this is law accurate or not. So as they're talking, Isildur mentions that his mother drowned, and the reason was that Isildur was messing around. He was swimming out, seeing how far he could go, and he got into a bit of trouble. And then she went out to save him, and that's how she died. Now, I don't know if that is law accurate or not. I
That
can't
sounds
remember.
like it's some show shit to me.
Yeah, because it's
I'm gonna
maybe
have a
like
look though.
she may have drowned, but whether it's rescuing a seal door because he's messing around, I don't know.
I do love this as well, though. I've just got onto Tolkien fandom, LOTR fandom, and
Yeah.
I'm on a Sildor, and it says spouse, unnamed wife. it's like
Oh, there
it's
we
like
go.
with Helm Hammerhand, unnamed daughter, but she's going to be hot shit now. It just says
Yeah.
parentage Elendil, so I guess unnamed wife, probably.
Yeah. Well, this will be here.
What happened to his brother, by the way?
Had a sex change apparently.
An Arion, yeah, because he's got to have an Arion. I feel like he was mentioned in series 1. I
Was
think.
he?
I think so. So if anyone can remember, let me know. I swear to God, like he did mention that there was a brother, but oh yeah, I forgot that. The sea is always right. Yeah, no, I forgot that quote. That was from series 1, wasn't it? So let's move on then. So we have the whole Bronwyn thing, and yeah, Theo says that he's going to help Isildur to bring the horsey back. After this point, so what's the bit where like the Ent shows up? My notes are so staggered at this point, guys. I'm so sorry. I think they get like attacked again, and then during the conflict, we get one of the what I'm assuming is going to be one of the Ent wives, which we've seen in the trailer. But the Ents don't have anything to do this episode. We just, they make their presence known, and that's it.
Yeah, so because they're on a rescue mission to get Beric back, and
What
it's
tantalizing television that is.
I know it's like the tension's gone straight away. They're just concluding everything within episodes.
That's a fucking side quest in Skyrim, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brigands have stolen my horse. Will you please reclaim it? Like, ooh, okay.
And this is another thing I love actually. So I thought that Theo would have knew these people, and that's how he managed to get to them. But apparently he doesn't know them because they go and they track down the exact place where these people are. I don't know how they know that. And Isildur goes and gets the horse back, and then Theo's talking to them, and he shows them the mark on his arm, and they're like not having it, and then they capture him. So for one, how the hell did he know where they were at? I mean, again, a master tracker. And then you get the Ents are in it. Oh, God,
Yeah, the Emp wives. That clears that mystery, doesn't it?
let's chuck the kitchen at it. Like chuck the kitchen sink. Everything's in it. And wives. Just think in this episode, we've had Ent wives, Shelob, a daddy orc.
Yeah.
What's next? An eagle that just randomly pops up and then bucks off. What have
Yeah,
we
just a
got?
fucking eagle that invokes our Pharazôn as Numenor's rightful heir or rightful ruler, apparently, because that's how it works.
Yeah, we've had everything, and we'll be seeing more Entwives in the next episode.
Oh
Can't
yeah,
wait. But
so great.
awful.
And then my next note is that we cut back to Numenor, and this is where, well, we've already mentioned like the eagle thing, right? So Elendil's daughter sort of reveals the fact that Miriel's been using yeah, this is the scene where she brings the Palantir, isn't it? That's right. And just causes a bit of a stir, really. So it's this whole like power vacuum thing. And then right at Muriel's coronation, this all kicks off. And then, yeah, the eagle shows up and kind of goes, "No, we don't want you, Muriel. We want our Pharazôn." It doesn't talk. We don't have talking eagles, but it's very evident that it's siding with our Pharazôn. And we get that cool little hero shot where he's got the eagle behind him. We see it in the trailer, and he draws his sword. Yeah. So what do we think? Do we think that he's gonna, with him ruling to power and the people favoring him, he's gonna sacrifice the Queen Regent? Because we see her underwater, right? When that like Kraken thing shows up to her.
I hope so, but I think that'll be a vision.
Oh,
To
you
be
think?
honest,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I can see her probably getting away. She won't be there during the fall of Numenor. I don't think they'll kill her off.
Yeah.
She's too good of a person. She's too good of a character. But one of the quotes for Elendil's role during this season is that he's going to be the watchful eyes of Muriel, and he's going to
Okay.
be learning how to lead from Muriel. I mean, it's not looking good straight off the bat. I mean, everyone wants her out, so he's got a lot to learn.
Yeah. And that's kind of the end of like the Numenor story, and yeah, it just, I think it ends with the Durin scene, isn't it? Like he gives them the Mithril to make the rings, but Durin the Fourth is a bit distrustful of Anatar. I think that's where the episode ends. Is that the final scene, or was it the eagle scene?
The eagle scene.
Ah,
Yeah,
so
oh, actually, I don't think. No, the last scene is of King Durin when he walks. Um, I think he's already there with Celebrimbor and Anatar, and he gives him the Mithril.
mhm.
So that's the last bit. But can you believe that Isildur's sister has already used the Palantir? And then you get a weird shot of Elendil touches it, then it
Mm.
just shoots him away.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this Palantir thing. Just real quick before we wrap up, Torrelenian says Anarion is alluded to in episode 4 of season 1 when Valandil says something like, "That garbage your brother used to spew." Yeah, I thought the brother was referenced at some point, but shit, I don't know when he's going to come up in it anyway. Right, guys, I think we're going to round off there because, as I say, my notes on episode 3 are pretty brief, and we've been going for almost 2.5 hours, and it's very, very late for us. So I think we're going to round off. And yeah, so in terms of next week, I believe you're on holiday, mate, aren't you? So we're going to try and work something else out. I'll probably jump on like either Thursday or Friday night just so that there's a bit of Rings of Power content. I'll probably talk about it like a spoiler-free review or a gloss over a lot of things just to give my initial opinions. And then we're going to try and work out a date where we can both jump on and get, that back and forth again like we do with these ones to get your opinion on it. So basically, if you subscribe to my channel, if you go to my community page, I post all of the times and the updates on there. Just before we wrap up there, if you want to tell people where they can find your channel and sort of what you've got coming out on the channel at the moment.
Yeah, so we're doing reviews at the moment. So we're doing episode breakdowns, which thank you, Amazon, for dropping 3 in one go because it's been an absolute pain. I've wrote, I think it's like for the first 2 episodes, 30 pages worth of notes.
God.
And I was similar to yourself for this last episode. It was like I wrote like 2 full pages and then I was like, oh, I can't be arsed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I'll be working on that tomorrow. Should be uploading my episode 2 review tomorrow as well. It'll be about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So yeah, that's all I've got for myself, and then working with yourself to cover this.
Yeah.
This is our therapy. This is
We'll
how
get
we
it
get
done.
through it. And
Yeah.
it's
This is
actually
our
amazing
quest.
because, like, yes, 100%. And I think it's amazing that, you know, I've already shot the episode breakdown for episode 2, but having these discussions, you manage to figure out more shit
I
with
know,
the show.
yeah.
You're like, oh damn, I didn't put that in, and so yeah, it has been really insightful, and I love coming on here, mate. It's been a pleasure.
No, it's always good, man. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so it's been a long one tonight. We knew it would be with 2 episodes, but thankfully things are going to return to a bit of normality now with just 1 episode a week. So we're going to sort something out for episode 4. We'll let you guys know what we've got planned for that. And then, yeah, then we'll have weekly stuff from here on in. So I wanted to say a big thank you to everyone that's tuned in tonight. We always appreciate it. The usual suspects in the comments there, keeping the conversation going. And, Tara Lenium for quoting Tolkien as well. Always a pleasure. So, yeah, we'll be back soon for more Rings of Power discussions and breakdowns. So until then, have a very good night, everyone. And I'll see you soon.